I need something that I could never find. Boy, you got it and it ain't for sure. Hey, oh baby, won't you take my hand and never ever let me go? But it's time for us to take our stand, show the world that we're a miracle. That's all I wanted from you. A little more attitude. Oh, how can I refuse? 'Cause you're the one that I choose. 'Cause all I wanted from you was for our love to come through. There's nothing else I can do, but you're the one that I choose.
sends it to the outside. He can't get there. Kevin King is going to win the Bar Visual FTF Cup Series.
Into the lead. Bud gets wrecked in front of the pack. He saves it. 3-4 wide as they come to the white flag.
Here comes Vargas down on the apron. They are 5 wide. Ian Plash will win it at the line. Is this package? Oh, there goes Jordan Lopez Jr. That's your race leader. Caution flag is out.
Still no one willing to give up as they are going to be dead even off of the first chicane.
Oh, he saves it. What's going to happen here? Here comes the canvas.
Get your foot there.
He's got it. He's got it.
This is gonna win.
Hello and welcome to the ModernRacingPrince.com FTF1 Series for one final time here for this season. We are here at California Speedway at the heart of the Inland Empire in Fontana, California to take on this 2-mile oval that speeds are going to be excessive, 240, 250 miles per hour, what we've seen on the charts so far. But I'm here, myself, Josh Mendoza, with James Pike, Zach Johnson behind the controls. James, what are you feeling going in today's race?
I'm feeling two things. One, the speed. Two, the width of this place. And I guess by extension, three, just how these cars are going to handle in traffic. We see it at Indianapolis in particular, where you get up behind somebody and these cars instantly tighten up. But this is a place where you've got more room to work. You've also got more room to sort of push the edge. And we've seen drivers in practice end up getting tight, getting loose, getting all over the place, running way, way up on the wall outside of corner exits. So just a lot of things we have to watch for, but a lot of good racing should be on tap tonight too.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of great racing. Very similar track to Michigan that we saw earlier this year. But as we get rolling here, the grid, we have a familiar name back out at front. That's Hamilton Akabueze, Brandon Hawken. Those two, I feel like it's a front row lockout every single race that we've been on an oval. Those who have been there, Ryan Pandicio, Justin Malillo. Justin's going to be a big storyline. We'll cover that here in a little bit. Ryan Naraki, Jonathan Goke, Seth Eggert, BB Ruiz, Jamie Ritchie Price, and Ben Goyette round out our top 10.
Brian Saucier starts at 11th. Tori Pushman rolls off 12th. Brian Zabelski starts 13th. And Corey Vervinkt 14th. 15th on the grid is Cody Ware. Matthew Brewer 16th. Michael Deitch is 17th. Jake Poulin 18th. Bill Cowley and Joseph Brewer round out the 20-car field.
That's our 20-car field. In total, everyone gets points tonight. It is a Triple Crown race. 50 points for winning it, 40 points for getting second place, and 1 point for finishing 20th. Pace car is going to be looking to pull down here. 250 laps at this 2-mile oval and speeds. I'm going to just go on circles here. And let's let the pros do that and rather the commentators go into circles.
I like that idea. That seems smart.
Pace car pulls down, and it is in the hands of Hamilton Akabueze as green flag is displayed here at California.
How quickly will these drivers get up to speed? How quickly will they start bunching up in a pack? And how quickly will we see what we saw at the beginning of the season at Michigan? I think you made a very good point there just before we took the green flag, Josh, that this track is similar in a lot of respects, but not as banked, a little bit lower in the corners. So something we'll need to watch for as these drivers make their way through the race.
And right now we see I believe that's the pole sitter, Hamilton Akabueze, already falling back to 4th place, it looks like. Like you said, how fast were they getting up to speed? So I can tell you right now, as you see them on screen right now, they are about 256, 257 miles per hour in the draft.
A casual 250 miles an hour. Casual, right?
Yeah, that's a little shocking. 37 second lap times here. I think that's a track record. Let me go ahead and check my records over here and see what the track record is. And oh my goodness gracious, track record is 30 seconds. So, and we just broke that right now. 29-second lap time.
That's just for reference. I know we'll have a lot of NASCAR fans that are watching. These are lap times that you run with those cars at 1.5-mile racetracks, and this place is bigger than 1.5 miles. To say
whole extra Bristol, whole extra Martinsville added onto the top of a regular 1.5 mile.
And they're still running the same lap times. That's absurd.
That is absolutely absurd. So we mentioned earlier that Justin Melillo is the storyline for today. He has an opportunity to close the gap to Hamilton Akabueze, currently 30 points back, but also the ability to secure the Triple Crown Championship is Justin Melillo's opportunity. All he needs to do is just kind of lay low and finish better than 13th, and he'll at least secure his position in the Triple Crown Championship. And that's everything else. We'll go ahead and kind of update you throughout the race. Currently working lap number 5.
It's a testament to how strong Justin has been in these Triple Crown races that Akabueze basically has to win tonight to even have a chance of taking the Triple Crown title. So it's there. It's a possibility, but he's going to have to be lights out at the end of this, which it's Akabueze, so I'm not going to rule that out. But still, it's a tall task for anyone to have to come in and say, oh, you have to win this in order to be able to do anything.
Yeah, it isn't like you can finish second place, and if Justin finishes last, he has a chance at winning. No, it literally Hamilton's only opportunity to even have a chance at that is winning the this race right here to get the Triple Crown Championship. So Hamilton got a tall task ahead of him. Our pole sitter's already fallen back to about 12th place right now. So and is continuing to fall back, but directly ahead of him who's also falling back is Justin Melillo. So those two are in stride together right now.
So here's my question here. As I look at this group, yes, they're bunched together, and they're getting some drafts off of each other, but they're spaced out decently. And in particular, there's a decent-sized gap between Seth Eggert and Jonathan Goke. And I'm wondering whether or not some of these drivers might already be trying to tuck in the mid-pack and stick behind somebody else so that they can run off the draft and save a little bit of fuel. And if the field may be letting Eggert run out there, because if he leads this train for the majority of a green flag run, he'll have to come in sooner because he's going to burn more fuel.
Yeah, that's a very good point. You do burn a lot of fuel out in front. Staying in tow is something that will save you a little bit of gas here and there every single lap. And if you add that up over time, quite a bit of fuel that you'll save. So something to definitely keep in mind. We've seen so many fuel strategies throughout these races, although I think our previous experience at oval tracks have been pretty consistent, where we've typically had several early on cautions followed by a very, very long green flag run, and that's been almost every single oval has followed that timeline. We'll see if today's race is any different though.
Just waiting to see when they decide to start boiling the pressure cooker. I would think not yet. This is very clearly a time to just click off laps and ride. Nobody's really out of this. I mean, furthest car back in this pack, Justin Brewer's 19th. He's, 6-7 seconds back per se? So, and even then, you pull it up to Bill Colley. Basically, the whole field is there, as we saw a big dive bomb there. Saucier tried to get underneath Seth Eggert for the lead and had to check up in the middle of the corner, and here we are, 3 wide, middle of the back straightaway. So I apparently know nothing, Josh.
He checked up that second line there, got a little 3 wide action down the backstretch. They were able to sort it out. Saucier was able to maintain that position in second place. But one driver I'm keeping my eye on right now is the 94 of Jake Poole, and in that Mickey Mouse Clubhouse machine, he's trying to get all the way up to the front right now. Actually, looks like he might have swapped paints. Might be driving for another team right now. That is on me, but he's already up from 18th position and looking to get that win.
Wanted to go with a Veneri, I don't know if we call that more banana or neon yellow. I'm not sure which one to go with there, but unmissable, unforgettable. Yeah, that's definitely Jake Poulin's car tonight. We'll know where that is, especially as the sun sets here and we get a little bit less light on the racetrack. That thing's going to stick out even more.
Yeah, that is something that is going to be very bright. We see a very similar colored car in the picture in frame, but it does appear to be a different car altogether, and things are getting a little bit sketch right now as they almost touch going into turn number 3. That got very close. I think that kettle is starting to cook.
When you consider the closing rate in the draft, and we'll see it here, you look at the way Saucier is able to gain on Seth Eggert. That was, call it maybe 2-3 car lengths down the front straightaway, and then you see some of the cars just behind Eggert on the inside. If you touch the apron, you're going so fast in these Dallara IR1s that you have to check up, and checking up means you almost automatically slide up at least half a groove. So if you're running the middle or the top, I think you have to be cognizant of how the drivers are running underneath you as we get a good look on board here at the action for the race lead. But you just have to be mindful of the folks on the very bottom of the racetrack to make sure that they don't come up and slide up into you if they get tighter, have to check up down low.
Yeah, on board here with Cody, where she's trying to get her way past car on the outside of Saucier. Not able to do it right there. Trying to get to the lead is Cody. She's had some pretty good runs, shown some speed throughout these Oval Series races. Just really hasn't been able to get a whole bunch of them together to get it all the way to the checkered flag. Definitely been a storyline for a lot of these drivers, just having really a lot of pace, but the wrecking gets in their way and they end up with a broken car really quickly.
I don't know if you saw this, but Corey Vervink just about smacked the wall about 3/4 of the way down the front stretch last time by. I saw 3 or 4 cars check up just to avoid hitting him, but that could have been very ugly very early on in this race.
That is something that can take out your other guy so quick. You said, what was it, 260 miles per hour-ish going down the front straightaway? I'm sure you kind of get up to accident scenes a little bit quicker than you would in other cars. You got to be on top of it, making sure you're paying attention.
There are spaceships, and then there are whatever these things are, which I feel like we're halfway to like the supersonic cars that they ran at Bonneville some like 20 years ago that are basically just pure gigantic jet engines. Like this is kind of that, just a more compact version.
Definitely. And this is already an interesting race, being that we're already at lap 16, still green flag racing, still side by side. This is not necessarily unheard of, but just a little bit odd for these oval races that we're going this long so far without a wreck. And I'm not trying to jinx it all. In fact, I'll knock on a little bit of wood, make sure that we're not jinxing it, but it is a bit surprising. It's outside the trend. We'll see if it stays and maintains. There you go. We like it.
Thank goodness I have a desk made purely of wood, so that don't have to go too far to make sure that we undo the jinxes. But yeah, you've got a little bit more space though. Like we talked about, this track runs wider. I would argue it runs even wider than Michigan in a lot of respects because there isn't as much banking. So you do have room to avoid things, and you certainly have more room to work with than you would at Indianapolis. So if there's a place where you might be able to avoid something, I think this is the one. We also have a slightly smaller field, 20 cars competing tonight in the season finale for the ModernRacingPrince.com FTF1 Series. So a little bit more room in the racetrack because you don't have it as congested either.
Yeah, absolutely. And right now, in case you are curious, it's about 6:30 in the simulator, very similar to real life time as it stands. Sun is setting in real time, so the sun will start to go down. Those parts of the track that are outside the sun will cool down. Temperature is already at 82, dropping. Air temperature, or that's the track temp, 82. Air temperature is down to 77. So this track will get cooler. And yes, California does have lights, so we may see a little bit of racing under the lights here.
You were inspired by Bob's presence on the ARCA broadcast earlier, weren't you?
I was inspired. As we got 3 wide for the lead right now. A little bit of, oh man, I think that might have been a little bit touching by Cody Ware and BB Ruiz. My apologies. Trying to figure out who was able to get up there to the lead. BB was able to get up there and is, oh my goodness, blocking in front of Cody Ware.
It's getting tight. BB and Seth Eggert almost got together out of 2 and out of 4, and Cody Ware had to check up just a little bit just to make sure that car didn't get collected in anything. And now all of a sudden, look at Jake Poulin, who's got the outside working it, and BB wants none of it immediately. BB says, I'm going to the back. I'm staying out of this. You all can have fun up there and wreck each other if you want.
And it's kind of funny that BB is the one that drops out from the pack, as BB was the one blocking earlier. But you know what? Sometimes you got to check yourself before you wreck yourself. So that's one way to do that. BB drops out of the pack and make sure that doesn't happen. One thing I did notice that last time by through turn 1, while they were 3 wide ahead, Jake Poulin went to that 4th lane and his car got a little bit upset. So I think there's a couple marbles up there that is getting onto the tires, causing it to just get a little dusty and make the car very loose.
I think it's not even a looseness thing. You just lose the handle on it. Not even a loose or tight thing. If you just get up in the marbles and you lose grip, the car acts as if it's tight, and you're just going to get sent up into the fence. And we saw that in practice a little bit. If drivers got too high, especially in the middle of the corner, if they got sort of up in that stretch of pavement where you had marbles, 9 times out of 10, they finished it off and went in the fence too. So as this race progresses, that's only going to become more and more of a problem. And I would think middle of the corner to corner exit in particular, so turns 2 and 4, you're going to see that become more and more prominent as we get closer to the end of the race.
Yeah, absolutely. We see a little bit of close action right now for the lead. Bryce Saucier, Seth Eggert still racing for that lead. Got a little bit of help from behind, Bryce Saucier does. That's Cody Ware still there. And it seems like we've kind of fallen into our mainstays right now for the early part of this race. These 3 have been in the top 3 for almost the last 10 laps or so. So we'll see if there's any comers or goers. But right now, got ones who have saving the field. Matthew Brewer, though, wants to put his name into the hat on that outside lane.
I was about to say Brewer's working his way up to the outside there and trying to find some room. I think there's pace up there. If you can hit that line right on corner exit, you can carry momentum and draw even and alongside somebody. But I think it's all dependent on how much draft you get in the middle of the corner and how well you get through middle of the corner to corner exit. If you can pull that off, that's there. I wonder if that may be a little bit more useful and come into prominence as this race progresses, and that particular line grips up as pulling just about got into the back of Saucier there on entry to 1 and 2. But again, one of those things we'll watch because it should develop over the course of 225-ish laps.
I kind of want to go back to your point of trying to save field, but I'll get to that here in a second as we got Jake Poulin on that outside lane looking 3 wide, coming with a run. Is he going to be able to take it anywhere? Backs out of the gas. It's something I've been watching him do. It's almost like he's practicing for a maneuver, just knowing, finding out what he can do, seeing what's out there and what's available to him. But Jake Poulin right now is one of those drivers that is testing the limits, seeing what he can get away with. He's got so much speed here, but every single time he gets a run, he just drops back out of it. And that's something that that Jake, I think he's going to have a lot of experience that I'm worried about that a couple of these drivers need to, that are in the back that need to be getting.
So are you thinking it would be smart for some of these drivers to just sort of follow Jake because he does have a lot of experience in open wheel stuff and he might be able to make a few moves, especially now that some of the other drivers who aren't as experienced up towards the front of this field might not have the memory banks to make?
Yeah, I think that right now what my original point was going to be that no one that started this race in the top 6 is currently even in the top 10. Everyone that's in the top 6 has dropped out. Akaboese, Hamilton, Pandisio, Malillo, Naraki, and Goke all are outside that top 10. Whether that be a strategy to try and save fuel, not quite sure. They're still in this lead draft, so they're still getting a little bit of fuel saving from that, but maybe they're just trying to play it safe. I'm worried about them.
I think you could go a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. I think part of it definitely is a fuel save, but I also think part of it is just to stay out of the raciness to the front of the pack. If you race with people that are more inclined to make moves and pass, by definition, you increase the probability that you get involved in a wreck. And so for all those drivers who started up near the front who have just decided to go single file, they're riding at this stage. They're not really trying to pass anybody. They're not really trying to mix it up as we see the leaders go after it once again into turn 3. So I think it's, yes, you could save a little bit of fuel, but I think it's more about just making sure that you have a car for the end in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, and as we say that, Jake Poulin falls all the way back to 10th position, and we see another driver, Tori Pushman, also going back to the back. Right there, it's just feeling like maybe things were getting a little bit too racy. Maybe Jake felt like he learned everything he wanted to learn up there, and it's now just going to go ahead and relax for the next couple of laps.
It's a possibility there. Oh, Seth Eggert just about got into Saucier there on corner entry. That was far closer to contact between Saucier's right front and Eggert's left rear than I think even he expected. So if I were on the spotter stand for Seth, I'd say, hey, whoa, do not try and make these crazy moves, because he almost bounced off from Saucier in the middle of the corner there. I thought tires were going to touch for a split second.
I saw a little bit of tire smoke over here, so maybe it was just for a minute second that they did make any amount of contact, but certainly sent a little bit of a warning bell throughout the field that things are getting a little bit heated towards the front of the pack.
I would be terrified at this stage. Truthfully, I would be like, you know what? I'm very okay with just being a little bit further back. Like, put me where Jamie Ritchie Price is. Put me where Jonathan Goke is. Put me where Pandicio is. Stick me in a place where I can just be single file for a while and not deal with this. Now, the flip side of this, and the sort of counter argument, and I think the line of thinking that a lot of these leaders have now as you see another move to the lead, is that if you're in front of the field, then you won't have to avoid a wreck because it will be happening behind you. And so I can see that school of thought also running through the minds of a Cody Ware, a Saucier, a Seth Eggert, a Matthew Brewer, folks like that. So it's sort of two halves of the same coin. The question is, which approach is the one that will ultimately end up more successful tonight?
Yeah, I being at the front of the field right now makes me nervous. I feel like we have a lot of people up there that haven't had an opportunity for a good finish, might be getting the excitement in their eyes that they could potentially land 50 points, be somewhere in the mid-pack, and that might jump them 10 positions just in the mid-pack points battle. It's a lot of points when we're normally giving out about 20, maybe 30 points for a feature race. So that's something else you got to keep in mind. That's going to be a little bit nerve-wracking. Is we're already on lap number 35, and I feel like that field window is quickly closing in.
Do you have any expectations as to what a green flag fuel window would be for these cars?
I did not get a chance to ask, but if I remember right at Michigan, it was about 42 to 46 laps. I will go ahead and follow up on that next time we're at an ad break, or next time they come down pit road. We'll see if I'm right. You want to take bets on that? Under over? We could do an under over bet on that.
Over 41.
Over 41. Yeah, I'll take an over on that one. I think it's over on 41.
Well, but main point, if we're right, then the field should be coming in within the next 5 laps, basically.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So time is clicking away. We got no one yet coming down pit road. We'll see if that changes anytime soon.
Meanwhile, Eggert back to the rear wing of Saucier to take the lead, and Cody Ware just waiting in the literal and figurative wings to see who takes this battle up to the front. And big slide there from Saucier, who just about wrecked, and then he does wreck. He bounces off of Vervinkt, spins on the back straightaway. First caution is out of the evening, and I think Vervinkt may have gotten the worst of that. You see a completely sheared off right rear wheel on his car.
And that is unfortunate. Looked like he had it all saved, was ready to go, and unfortunately... Oh, no, and it sounds like Brian Zabelski's already out of the race. We'll get a replay right here.
He did actually have it saved. He caught it and saved it, and then they all sort of running up into each other. And Tori Pushman was the one who initially got into Saucier and sent Saucier into Vervinkt and started all this. So it's more on the battle between Pushman and the car to the outside of Pushman's, which I think may have been Brewer, perhaps, as I look at this. I think Matthew Brewer was the other one that was there, but they all sort of moved and were jumbling around on corner exit, and they just sort of crossed paths, and all of a sudden you got cars wrecked on the backstretch.
One driver I saw there was Hamilton Akabuezi right here. Might have been able to avoid damage, but definitely lost it. Just stood on the brakes, and I think got it just a little sideways. Yeah, just spun it around. May have gotten contact from behind.
Either contact from behind, or did he try and downshift to avoid it and just missed it, perhaps?
We'll see right here if there was any contact for Hamilton. Oh,
yep.
Yeah.
Yep, he got help. So that's I couldn't tell who got him, but that's a new wing for somebody else. The real question is there going to be damage on the rear of Akabueze's car, which for any of these open wheel machines, if you're going to hit something between the front and the rear, you'd rather have the damage up front because wings are replaceable, but the diffuser and the suspension back there, if that gets bent up, that can affect full races. I've done 500-mile races in cars like the R01 where my nose is clean, but I got some damage on the diffuser, and it slowed me down by a good 5 to 10 miles an hour down the straight. So that's something we may have to watch for with Akabueze as well as this race goes off into the next few hundred laps or so.
We'll go ahead and be right back after these messages here at California Speedway. This is the ModernRacingPrince.com FTF1 Series. And we're back here at California Speedway. Green flag is about to drop, as right now the field is led by Seth Eggert, and green flag is out. Seth Eggert leads the field across the start-finish line. We are working lap number 42 here at California after a 5-car pileup took out a couple of drivers.
And think about that. We started with 20 on the grid. Of that 20, we've got 4 that are on pit road and likely done for the evening, and 1 in Jake Poulin that's decided to sort of drop to the back of the pack. So we talked about how there should be a little bit more running room for a lot of this field. I think we're seeing that now. And you talk about the drivers that decided to drop back from the front at the start of this race. The Gokes, the Malillos, the Narakis, the Akabuezes. They look pretty smart after that incident.
Yeah, they're definitely looking a little bit of, they're definitely looking smart. But right now I'm following along with Hamilton Akabueze just to see if there's any damage to that rear diffuser that's causing his car to be a little bit slower. We'll keep an eye on that right now. As it stands, he's looking like he's okay at the moment, but we'll update you with a couple of lap times here in a minute after he's had a little bit of time to feel that car out.
We'll let him feel it out. Meanwhile, good battle here for a third. Matthew Brewer, Ben Goyette, Cody Ware, BB Ruiz, all together in a 4-car pack. And then you've got Pandicio and then Jamie Ritchie Price and Michael Deitch in a group just behind them. If they decide to close up, this becomes 7 cars racing for position very quickly in our best battle outright on the track.
Yeah, we've got a lot of cars here racing side by side right now for that 4th position. Cody Ware, Ben Goyette, like you said. Goyette's going to fall back a little bit. That's going to bring BB Ruiz into the picture. Now BB's looking to go underneath Goyette. Is that going to be able to happen? So we got a side-by-side battle for the lead. Up at the front, Seth Eggert with, oh, look who it is, Brandon Hawken. All the way up to the front. Hawken, our current champion, already's got his medal sitting back at home, just out here to have a good time.
Painted the car gold tonight. Fitting, I think. That seems like a very appropriate touch. Just needs to get the... Get ready to have the number 1 on his car next year too, I would figure, right?
Yeah, right now he will be. I believe he has the opportunity to take the number 1 if he's not already. asked for that opportunity. He's got 99 painted. We'll see if Brandon Hawken wants to take the one, but looking to actually take the one on the scoring pylon is Hawken and put him out front. He is now the #1 car on track.
So now we've got a battle for the race lead, and that group of about 4, 5, 6, 7 that we talked about has started to join together and shuffle like an accordion towards the front. So BB Ruiz to the inside with a good run underneath Hawken. Eggert's there too. Hawken will slide in between Eggert and Cody Ware and go back to third, and then everybody else behind Cody Ware pretty much just all single file.
As it stands, Hamilton Akabuezi just set his fastest lap of the race, so I think his car's okay. No issues there, as we'll follow along to see if he's able to make anything happen. And right now, put him out at front. That is BB Ruiz, but for only just a second as Seth Eggert goes to the outside.
They're just going to trade this off, I think, all night. We're going to see BB and Seth and Cody and Brandon and even Ben Goyette, I think, up there just taking turns, figuring out who wants the lead. BB's got it now. There's Ware to the outside, Eggert to the inside. So we know that everybody in this front group is not only racy, but I feel like there's enough racecraft amongst that trio to where we can see some really good battles. And if the idea is to just go out and have fun and not really worry about fuel or anything else, I'd say if you're confident enough to race like this is the way to do it, because trading away everything is all a good time.
Now, James, something to keep in mind over the course of the race is as the cars burn off that fuel, they get a little bit lighter. If you can manage your tires towards the end of the run and be able to go out on a low fuel load situation for as long as possible. That's how we saw a couple of drivers back at Michigan go ahead and separate themselves from the field, is just being out on low fuel strategy for the long run here. Do you think that's potentially what we're seeing from those cars that are hanging out towards the back of the field?
It's possible. I think the biggest thing, if you're going to run a strategy like that, you have to hope that we don't see a lot of cautions like we just had. If it goes green, you end up looking better the more green flag racing we have, if that's sort of your game plan. So if you think we're going to have more yellows, I'd probably try and slide up towards the front and race. But yeah, I think if you've got the opportunity to lay back and hang out a little bit, and you think we might go maybe 100, 150 laps before the next yellow, then why not try and save some fuel and get a leg up when it comes to runs on everybody else in the field?
That's a good point right there. So we'll see as BB Ruiz is underneath Eggert, if they're able to keep it together, keep themselves separated for that second position. It's getting a little bit dicey back there. We got 3 cars in line. Seth Eggert looks to go to the middle, and I want to get all excited about this, but I feel like if I do that, I'm gonna wear my voice out very early on into this commentary. I think we're gonna see this for a while tonight.
Wait, Josh, did you just say that you gotta keep them separated?
Yes, I did. I did say that.
There we go. Good. Well, here's the thing. I can tell that the sun is going down and the moon is coming up, and the question that we have to answer tonight is who's going to leave home with the cup, which we know Brandon Hawken's getting the season title, but got to figure out who's going to go home with the race titles. We give you 2 90s music references for the price of 1. We got BOGOs going on over here.
Not that far away, about 2 hours away from Hollywood Boulevard, where so many records are done over there, and home of so much music industry, and
Capitol Records building too. Yeah,
right down there. So we are just around the corner from there, but at the moment we're at the Inland Empire at California Speedway, and they are 3 wide for the lead. And I think if they really wanted to, James, we could try to get them to go 5 wide for the lead.
Oh, you could do that here for sure. That's absolutely possible. And I think towards the end of this race, if we have enough cars running at the end of it, I won't rule out that possibility. But we also still have just under 200 laps of racing left here in California. So it sounds very cliche and is in a lot of respects, but you have to make it to lap 225, 230, 235, 240. You have to make it to, 15 to go, 10 to go, 5 to go to give yourself a chance. And part of the battle is not even racing everybody else in the field. It's just racing the track and make sure that you survive. I think a bit of a road course mentality in a longer race like this is definitely going to help. And I think we're seeing it out of a lot of those drivers in the middle of the pack. The Richie Prices, the Akabuezes, the Malillos, the Rockies, even Bryce Saucier's decided to drop back a bit. And I think they're all just sort of waiting.
Well, everyone can't drop back, so as soon as everyone starts dropping back, that just moves the lead battle towards the close. So we got the caution out. As BB Ruiz is spun into turn number 1. Looks like that's just a single car issue. And that is unfortunate. BB Ruiz just comes over the radio and officially stats himself and says, I have now DNF'd every race I've started. So that is unfortunate.
A tough break indeed, but oh my goodness, can we get Matthew Brewers on board of this? Because that's going to be an absolutely crazy view here. You'll see BB just catch the apron, spin up into the fence. You know, nothing that we haven't talked about already, nothing that's any crazy. You know, if you get offline a little bit, lose traction, makes it really difficult to control the cars at the speed. But watch the way that Matthew Brewer's machine. This is going to be an incredible shot because this is one of those, you have no human ability to react fast enough. And if Brewer was just a little bit further up the racetrack, look at how close that was. If he was any closer to the front, he would have absolutely T-boned BB and both of their nights would have been over.
A little bit of news around the track. Jake Poulin back on the lead lap. And I believe Brian Sabelski is back out on track. Had a little bit of suspension damage, but his team is able to get it back sorted. And Sabelski is back out 13 laps down.
13, 14 laps down. So only 14 more yellows, right?
Yeah, that's doable.
Or if you're Sabelski, you just want everybody else to wreck and have to go into the pit road for a little bit so you can just click off laps and get it back.
Yeah, right now, if you're Justin Malillo, you're okay with the amount of damage that's happening, but you don't want too much if you want to close that gap in for the second place for the driver championship. You want to see Akabueze be able to have an opportunity to lose a lot of points here. And as we start to lose drivers, the opportunity to get less points is going away as those drivers take those spots.
Drivers working their way off of pit road. Eggert is going to win the battle. Then Deitch, then Ware, then Goyette. And I think Brewer was able to just sneak out ahead of Jonathan Goch there for the last spot in the top 5. So good fight on pit road now that we have 57 of 250 laps complete.
Well, we saw pit stops right there. We're going to go ahead and see a restart here very shortly. But in the meantime, we will be right back here with the ModernRacingPrince.com FTF1 Series. All right, I'll be right back. I'm going to ask the field. We are back here at California Speedway, the ModernRacingPrince.com FTF1 Series. Green flag is displayed once again. Seth Eggert leads the field to green as he seems to check up, and that's going to cause a little bit of chaos on this restart. We'll see if everyone's able to get it sorted. Everyone does. No major incidents, but that got very sketch on the restart.
Well, everybody checked up there to make sure that they didn't run over each other. And they are 3 wide, a little bit further back in the field. That's really, I think, where we're seeing the effects of this right around Melillo. The Brewer brothers, Saucier, Akabuese, it took them a little bit to get unglued and be safe.
Yeah, and there was a wild restart for Justin Melillo as he had to navigate around a couple of slower cars as he got up to speed a little bit quicker than the other drivers did, but he was able to navigate it, went from 14th all the way to 9th on that restart.
So Eggert in control of this once again. Clearly one of the drivers, if not maybe the foremost driver, who is, I think, made through his driving pretty clear that he wants to control this race from the front and avoid chaos by being in front of it. I think you could probably throw Cody Ware into that bucket as well, with the way Cody's been running up towards the front and just staying ahead of everything. Wouldn't surprise me if that's sort of the game plan in the camp of the 92 machine. Curious to see how Goyette and Deitch play this just with the track position they have, because we haven't really seen them too close to the front.
And you saw it right there. Jake Poulin was in pit road. Unfortunately, we said that they were able to get it sorted, but unfortunately missed towards the back of the pack. Jonathan Goke got into the rear of Jake Poulin. That gave Jake Poulin a meatball flag. He's stuck on pit road right now. Goke also comes down pit road, gets a new nose on the front of that car, so got a new front wing. Jake Poulin did just get his, got everything sorted, so he's going to go, I think, about 2 laps down here once everything gets sorted.
See where he comes out in relation to everybody else here. That I think will be very intriguing as Poulin continues to work his way off pit road. Now he's just exiting pit lane. Leaders are coming off of turn 4 down the front stretch, so I think it should be about a set of corners here. We'll see how long it takes for Poulin to get back up to speed and how close this is going to be. It looks like, yeah, going to be about the back stretches length between Poulin and the leaders.
And that's unfortunate for Poulin in more than just the fact that he's now 2 laps down. He's now without a draft. James, I spoke with a couple of drivers during that most recent break, got a fuel number from them, and they said, hear this, 38 to 48 laps. When is the last time you've heard a 10-lap fuel window at a 2-mile track, James?
Well, you made the point to me during the break, and I think a very astute one at that it's all because of the draft and how easy it is to sit behind somebody. And if you want to save enough fuel to make it nearly 50 laps here, you can just not press and ride behind somebody and do exactly that, which, again, if we start getting multiple green flag runs, if you race that way, that can pay huge dividends, but we haven't had enough green flag runs to really have that make a difference yet. Right now, with the way this race has played out, it's been, I think, more effective to try and run near the front and get the track position. But I do figure at some stage here in the middle, we're going to see a point where these drivers will gain more by just sitting and riding than they will trying to fight each other for the lead. And that's when we're really going to see pit strategy, I think, begin to paint a picture of what the end of this race could look like.
Yeah, absolutely. So many opportunities for strategy there throughout the run. And right now we're on board. I believe this is with the Justin Melillo machine. And you can see right now he is doing everything he can to stay behind that Naraki machine, just hanging out, not getting too far out of the draft. He might poke it out here and there, but otherwise he's hanging out, just getting draft, and that's helping him save that fuel for that long run that he is probably trying to plan for.
Continuing to shuffle and continuing to fight here through the mid-pack. Good battles here all throughout this bunch, and everybody is trying to figure out where they want to be, where they want to sit, where they think the best place is to just not be in the midst of everything, which is an easier question, I think, asked than answered at this point, because you've got battles at the front, but you've got battles towards the back end of the top 10 too.
Yeah, right now you see Brandon Hawken, our current champion, falling right behind Justin Melillo, who's just going to hang out right there. And it looks like Jake Poulin's going to come back down to pit road as he goes down, I believe, a 3rd lap here. So unfortunately, Jake Poulin's day is just continuing to get worse as he is going to do that. And we see a little bit of side-by-side action for the lead. I believe that's Eggert and Ware right now.
other thing worth noting as this particular green flag run has begun to develop is that there is a second group of cars effectively that have decided to back off the front, starting with Matthew Brewer in 10th, but everybody running from 10th to, I believe, 13th, 14th. I think Zabelski might be a few laps in, he might be in that group, but it's about 5 cars that have decided to stay off the back of the top 10 and just not be involved with anything. So again, we talked about differing strategies. We talked about drivers who don't necessarily want to be near the action. To me, seems pretty clear that that group in the back doesn't really want much of anything. I couldn't tell who got in trouble there. I think somebody got in trouble. Might have been Matthew Brewer.
Matthew Brewer is just got into the wall, but I have noticed something pretty interesting, James, and I hoping maybe we can get an onboard here with the 1 car. But right now, if we stay on board with him for a little bit, you'll notice he's doing something we talked about. He is clutching throughout this. Last time down the front stretch, he clutched down the front stretch for about half of the front stretch, James. You'll see he's probably not going to do it here. Actually, still does it there just a little bit, just to stay in touch with the draft. But yeah, he is getting very close and just clutching it just to save gas as much as he can.
Right. So the idea here for a Hawken, and if you run some of the other open wheel cars in iRacing, you know that you can also achieve this with different fuel maps. You can run the engine a little bit leaner to save fuel as well. But here in the IR1, you have to use the clutch. And so the thought process for Hawken is to stay just on the edge of that window of draft behind the cars ahead of him. Doesn't want to lose touch with them, because then you lose the ability to draft and you lose the ability to save fuel. You have to get back on the gas to catch back up. But you don't want to be any closer to them than you need to be in order to get maximum fuel saved. So it wouldn't shock me, by extension, if this goes green all the way throughout this green flag run, if Hawken ends up being one of, if not the last car to pit, because he saved more fuel than everybody else.
We'll see if a couple of other drivers will keep an eye on this developing story and see if any other drivers start to join Hawken on the team clutching. We'll see if that happens. But right now, Hawken, first one that we've seen do it so far this race.
Very intriguing observation at that as well. And Hawken also, again, he is the last car amongst this lead pack. You've got essentially the lead pack and then the second pack. So if it all goes completely haywire, worst case scenario, he could drop back to that group with Saucier and Akabueze and the Brewers and Zabelski and Goat. There's one more back there. So you got a few ways to play this, but I think the ideal spot for Hawken is where he is, and if he can maintain that track position in particular over this green flag run, he'll be in really, really good shape long term.
Yeah, right now I went through and checked all the other drivers, and I didn't see anyone else in that front pack who was saving quite like Hawken was. So that'll be curious. That he may make it to 49 laps, James. If I had to guess, Hawken, if anyone's going to do it, he'd be the one that goes to 49 laps.
So to my thinking on this as well, and then on the opposite end, you'd think a Seth Eggert or a Cody Ware, both of whom have been fighting at the front of the field, almost certainly going to be the first ones to pit. So almost the inverse of what you expect with oval racing, where traditionally it's the cars that are up at the front that pit last. Here, it's probably going to be the leaders that end up coming down first, and those towards the back of the field that get to stay out and potentially either catch a caution or extend a fuel window by a few laps over their competitors.
Yeah, working, I believe right now, about 16 or 17 laps on this fuel run as it stands. Looks like we went back green flag racing on lap 59. So we'll go ahead and keep a track on that and just see when exactly these drivers will start to come down pit road.
Eggert there, and then good battles a little bit further through the field as well. This is a look back at that really, really good stuff there towards the back of the group, and that second pack looks like it's gotten a little bit bigger here.
Yeah, second pack looks like it's about four, maybe 5 cars right now. And we see Hamilton Akabueze, a very notable driver in that pack, definitely hanging out, doing that hang out towards the back strategy that we had mentioned before. But with this far off of the draft, he's going to be burning a lot more gas if he's leading.
Same sort of principle that you're looking at with Eggert or Ware at the front of the field, where if you're leading the second pack, you're not catching the draft of that last car in the first pack, which at this point is Bryce Saucier. So you're going to burn a little bit more fuel, like you said. And if anything, if you're Akabueze, you'd like to try and drag that second pack back up to the lead so that you have one cohesive pack and you can get the draft with somebody else.
And it's funny you mentioned that. I'm looking at the lap times right now. The second pack is about 0.3 to 0.4 of a second faster per lap. And you're probably wondering and sitting there, well, how the heck are they managing that? Well, we saw this at Michigan. We've seen it at other high-speed tracks. These two drivers, I was about to point out, they're doing a high-speed dance of just going and circling and just carrying the draft and carrying the runs. But as soon as I say that, it looks like the driver, Bryce Saucier, just loses it through turns 3 and 4, and unfortunately, all the time they gained, they just lost.
Put them back somewhere in the ballpark of about 1.5 seconds. Now, again, worth noting that Jamie Ritchie Price, who is, I believe, the last one in this bunch, just sort of sitting there at this stage. I'll see if we can't get a good look at this. Yeah, so Ritchie Price is the last one in the lead group, not necessarily pushing. So, again, if that second pack works together, they will run faster, because I can tell that the drivers at the back of this lead pack are conserving fuel a little bit. So it's not like you can't catch them again, but you have to expend all that energy and fuel to get back up there. And that's really what's going to hurt those drivers from Akabueze on back.
Yeah, absolutely. And right now, it looks like Akabueze and Saucier or Brewer are racing once again and just trying to go ahead and make up time is that Sabelski? Sorry, that's Sabelski that's racing right now with Akabueze, and they're doing their little high-speed pirouetting, dancing, whatever you want to call it, square dancing, draft carrying, all that jazz. Whatever it's doing, it's a little bit quicker.
Perhaps. And if they start battling here, then you're really going to end up in trouble, because we can tell that a lot of people towards the back of this lead pack are just sitting in a single file line. The only real battles we're seeing are between Eggert and Goyette and Cody Ware at the front. A little bit too with Melillo and Michael Deitch, but not a lot of side-by-side racing with the leaders.
Yeah, it's a very single file right now, and this is certainly not abnormal, but it's a little bit cleaner than we've seen in a lot of our other Triple Crown races, a lot of these oval races. I feel like we're getting much longer green flag runs comparatively as, oh my goodness gracious, Bryce Saucier almost wrecks again towards the back of the pack. He managed to keep it together. Man, that 10 car has got me very nervous, and he has completely separated that pack up now. Joseph Brewer has fallen and lost touch with Sabelski and Akabueze. So now it's Akabueze and Sabelski as a lone pair trying to catch up with this pack.
And that will just make it even tougher. The less cars you have in a pack, the harder it is to try and run down drivers ahead of you. So this is not a great place for Akabueze or Saucier to be. And you'd really much rather at least be in Ritchie Price's position. If anything, the fact that Ritchie Price is now the last car in that pack probably benefits Hawken more than anyone else and his gigantic fuel save that we've seen. So let's see how that pans out, because that, I think, everything's setting up beautifully for Brandon Hawken at this stage to really put together a monster run in terms of the amount of laps run and come in, 4 or 5 laps later than maybe everybody else around him.
Yeah, that's definitely very true, and that's definitely going to put him off strategy. It may work out, but if caution comes out at the wrong time, it could also set them back very, very far back. Right now, Sabelski isn't really in contention other than just trying to pass anyone else who wrecks at the moment. So Sabelski doesn't really care where a caution comes out. He knows that he's more than likely not going to get up many more positions outside of ones that are wrecking. So Sabelski's just chilling. Akabueze, on the other hand, he may have just raced this race far too conservatively and could be in a position that he could lose a fair number of points here just by being too conservative.
Intriguing passing thought worth noting is good battles up front. We haven't really talked about the fact that we're starting to see Deitch and Goyette in particular. I wasn't sure how they wanted to sort of play this, but the more I see them race, the more I think we're starting to see them fall more in that camp of let's stay up front and let's control this, because they haven't left. Those four, Deitch, Eggert, Ware, and Goyette, have been consistently swapping the lead with each other since we took the green flag call it 30 laps ago. So I think those four in particular really do want to try and stay up at the front. Then you've got Naraki, Melillo, Candicio, Richie Price, Hawken, and company that are just riding. And then you've got Akableze, Saucier, the Brewers, Gok, everybody else is trying to run that lead pack back down.
We've seen a lot of people try and maintain control of the races. I think immediately back to Justin Melillo's last win at Indianapolis, where he and the rest of the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse were trying to maintain control of the race. And by doing so, they ended up putting themselves all in the same place when the wreck occurred and almost took out all of them. So that's something to keep in mind with the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse crew, that they've probably learned from that incident. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, but these drivers up in front, they may not all be on the same team, but they're all in the same thought process of just trying to maintain control of the race. And if an incident happens up here, it could take all four of them out very easily.
So just don't wreck each other for 150 laps then, 160 laps, right? You know?
It's just that easy, James. Just don't wreck each other.
I mean, we can say it, right? It can't be that hard to do, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if they can go 158 laps clean, then that leaves the one lap for them to sort it all out.
If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball.
Yeah, there you go. I like it. Good answer.
We can go full Hollywood with it. We're close, right?
Yeah, why not? Let's just do it. I'm sure our producer is rolling his eyes right now. So.
Oh, and wouldn't be the first time that Zach Johnson's done that with me. I'm not surprised I've been pulled out of the booth yet. He probably will in like 2 seconds.
As it stands currently, Naraki has fallen back about 0.7 of a second behind. We see these four cars. You said they were maintaining control. Well, they are pulling away right now from 5th place Naraki. You see that gap is continuing to build. I'm not sure if this is a strategy. As I say that, it looks like the Rocky just closes the gap.
We talked about how much the leaders were running side by side, and then they just went down the back straightaway, and they were all single file, and I'm like, wow, we look like idiots now, geez, because they just decided to stop. And then right on cue, they go back to it, as I think that's Ware to the outside of Goyette, and Goyette with that monster run down on the bottom, and Deitch just sort of waiting, watching, paying attention.
And mind you, this is just, like we said very early on, a casual 250 miles per hour while all this is happening.
Perhaps, right?
30 or 29-second lap times as they work their way around the racetrack. And these laps are clicking by very, very quickly. 95 laps already completed here. Now working with 155 laps to go. And this is just absolutely a blistering pace being set right now. One of our fastest oval races so far. Only 2 cautions. And man, James, I feel like this race is going to be over before we know it.
You say this, and there's so much left to go in this race. We are only about an hour into proceedings. We've completed about 100 laps, so we have at least another hour, I'd say, of action to keep track of amongst these 10 to 15 drivers in a grand finale to the 2023 ModernPrince.com FTF1 Series, which is a lot of fun and really cool to see FTF yet again think outside the box. Here we go. Pit stops, though, around on lap 39. So
that's Naraki and Melillo, the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse crew, decides that they're going to go for the undercut. Just last lap, Brian Sabelski also comes down pit road, so we'll see what happens here as Melillo and Naraki are both coming down pit road. Pit road, very, very slow, 55 miles per hour And before they're even in their pit boxes, you have the field exiting turn number 4. We got a couple more takers coming down pit road. We'll see who those are.
Eggert and Ware are the two that came down that time by us. That was 40 laps for them. So my eyes now very squarely fall upon the machine of Brandon Hawken. We know how much he tried to save over the course of this run. What kind of gap does he pull in terms of the extra number of laps that he can stay out while everybody else comes down to pit?
Yeah, we'll see who comes down pit road. It looks like Michael Diaz is going to come down pit road, and then he's going to be joined by Hamilton Akabueze. Akabueze makes up a ton of time on Ditch. Ditch came in from 4th place, and there's Akabueze directly behind. That is an incredible job by Akabueze to make up a little bit of time coming on pit road entrance.
Beautiful work there. Akabueze needed some sort of turn like that, and really, really needed the help in some way, shape, or form. So Saucier Dice Akabueze, and here comes Hawken in on lap 42 with Goyette, or actually no, Pandicio, Richie Price, and Hawken. So Goyette, I think, actually stayed out. I think he's going to be the last one to pit.
And unfortunate news for the 92 of Cody Ware. Got a penalty, will need to come back down pit road. I believe this will be a pass-through penalty, but we'll see as Cody Ware comes down pit road for a second time, and unfortunately is likely going to take herself out of contention to potentially win this race.
Unless we get another yellow, and maybe there's a caution. You know, never say never, right?
Yeah, that's very true. It's very difficult to come back from 2 laps down. We'll see what happens here, though, as we see right now, presently, Ben Goyette has come down pit road, so the leader has come down pit road. Brandon Hawken has exited, and we'll see where this all shakes out. We got another penalty. Ryan Pandicio has a black flag as well. That's unfortunate for him. He'll need to come back down pit road, and he's currently battling for a team championship. So unfortunate for Pandicio. You'll see him come down pit road. Maybe not this time. He may choose to elect to do it next time in hopes that maybe a yellow might come out.
All right, so this is interesting. Now that we have Goyette working his way through it, and we're starting to see the leaders shuffle, Hawken is scored as your race leader, then Naraki, then Malillo.
Oh no! Goyette just got a penalty as well. Another black flag issued. This is one of our worst pit cycles we've seen to date.
So this now almost becomes a battle of the pack that didn't get a penalty on pit road and the pack that did, because you're going to have enough people in that second pack that have had to come down for service that you're going to have 3 or 4 cars there. You could work something with that.
I'm fairly certain most of these drivers are getting their penalties by putting their right rear tire outside the white line exiting pit road, which, for those of you who don't play iRacing or are not familiar, that is a blend violation where they are blending onto the track before they are permitted to do so. There's a blue cone on the backstretch for which they're allowed to enter the racing surface after. And if you enter it before that point, even if it's just a little bit, you have to come down pit road. As we see one on the outside wall, can't quite tell who that is.
Joseph Brewer.
Oh, no. And he's very slow right now.
There was damage to the wing already that I had missed. I didn't realize that, so...
Very, very slow right now. 220 miles per hour and struggling to find speed. I imagine he will come down pit road to get some damage repaired. He's only able to get to 230 miles per hour right now. You'll see the closing speed with that car on that outside that's just able to drive right around him. I imagine Brewer will come down, get a little bit of service done, and see if he can get that car back up to pace. Otherwise, he's going to bleed time super fast.
So here's a wild one. I just went back and I looked at the replay. He got damage on the front wing by hitting the exit cone on the back straightaway. That blend line that you talk about, or the cone that's there to mark the end of it where you can merge back onto the racetrack, he hit that while coming back out onto the circuit, and the cone damaged his front wing right by the nose.
That is absolutely wild. We'll go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and see if I see that on my end as well. That is, yeah, you are absolutely correct. Joseph Brewer hit the pit exit blend cone that I had mentioned just a few moments ago, and that damaged the front of his wing And unfortunately, that resulted in him losing a ton of downforce and him making contact with the wall, and is now very much off of pace. That is unfortunate for Brewer. He needs to come down pit road and get that repaired, I think, sooner rather than later.
Yeah, let's say if you don't come down and get that repair, then you're just going to bleed time lap on lap on lap, and it's better to just bite the bullet and make that pit stop now, and then worry about trying to catch back up. Because again, you come down pit road for service, it's not like you're going to be the only car a lap down. He'll be back there. Gok is a lap down. Pandicio's a lap down. Goyette's 2 laps down. Cody Ware's 2 laps down. So you got drivers back there that need some help.
Yeah, as we say that, Brewer must be listening to the broadcast. Joseph Brewer is going to come down pit road and get his vehicle serviced. As we see right now, looks like Seth Eggert and the rest of the lead pack, as we see Justin Malolo. I think that's our first time since the beginning of the race that we've seen Justin Malolo fighting for the lead. So that right there shows Justin Malolo has now had I imagine, a change in strategy. Maybe he's working with Seth Eggert here to try and make sure that these drivers keep the battle between themselves.
So interesting to me, just we look at the way that pit cycle played out. Malillo and Naraki absolutely gained time by short pitting. Now they'll have to come in a little bit earlier than everybody else, but they got the track position they were looking for. Hawken and Richie Price made out like bandits. I think they could be in the best spot because they're right behind the leaders, but they pitted after everybody else so they can stay out longer than everyone else here and extend that gap that they created by fuel saving in that first green flag stint. I think now we sort of hit the point where we're going to start seeing a lot of green flag racing. So if you weren't already fuel saving, now I think it's the time to start thinking about that.
And bad just gets worse. Brewer, pit exit violation.
But no damage from the cone this time, so that's a plus.
I guess that's true.
Given you sort of have to look at the bright side of life when you literally damaged your wing and put a big dent into your race figuratively by hitting the pit exit cone and the blend line going off in turn 2. So it could always be worse. Let's be fair about that.
That's true. And correct, that was not a blend violation for Brewer. It looks like it was a speeding in the last section of pit road penalty for Joseph Brewer. So he's going to come down, probably serve a pass-through penalty here. Don't believe it's an excessive speeding penalty, but we'll see. And it is a slow 45-mile-per-hour penalty that Brewer is going to have to experience if he decides to go back out there, or if he's going to go ahead and throw the towel in. But so much mixed strategy. And James, did you mention Akabuezi's managed to close up and is now part of the lead pack?
How convenient that happened and how awesome that works out for him when there was all that confusion and the shuffling that happens when you have everybody blending back on the racetrack. Those first few laps after everybody comes down pit road and you reform that lead pack, you have the ability to gain time. And I think that's exactly what Akabueze was able to take advantage of. And so now here he is sitting in the same spot that Brandon Hawken did on the run before, and Jamie Ritchie Price too, where I would figure if you're Akabueze, you're probably trying to save a little bit of fuel.
Yeah, right there. That's a great point. We saw him make up a lot of time on pit entrance on Deitch and was able to do that in impressively. He's now 5 seconds ahead of Deitch and now is in 6th place. So as far as people who executed perfectly, you got to hand it to Akabueze. I don't think he could have executed that any better.
Or at least take advantage of the situation and really make out with something good. He definitely really did a nice job of closing on that gap, getting back to the lead pack. Now he's in a position where he can start playing with some of the strategies and try and figure out how he wants to manage this race his way.
Absolutely. He is now in that lead pack, can kind of figure out and drive it however he wants. And right now, I'm actually gonna check to see is he clutching it all. I don't believe he is, but I believe Brandon Hawken may still be clutching. I will follow up on that as we enter into turn number 3 right now. But the 2 leaders, Justin Malolo and Seth Eggert, continue to do a dancing game here. Yep, and Brandon Hawken still clutching.
So this is something where you'll want to watch this and see as we go, 2, 3, 4 green flag runs potentially. We've got time for him. If you play this right and you're Brandon Hawken, you can stretch this out to where you can stay out for, take that one run we just had and extrapolate it, almost 12 laps beyond what, say, maybe a Malilla or an Iraqi who came in on the early end of that run could. And that could end up paying really, really big dividends at the end of this too. If you're already sort of game planning and trying to piece it together, it's about going to be 20 laps at 118. So do the math on the 42s and see where you get with it, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Right now, and one driver that is having one of those days that you just kind of wonder where it all went wrong. Jonathan Goke, 1 lap down presently. Has no draft right now. He's just hanging out by himself. Goke is usually one of those drivers that you expect to be up towards the front of the race, and he is just missing from the picture right now, by himself, no one around him, and it's unfortunate for Jonathan Goke.
That is unfortunate for Jonathan Goke. I also just ran the numbers on Hawken and his strategy, and if my math is right and this goes green the rest of the way, just playing the hypothetical, he would be good to the end on the current pit strategy he's running. And if he mirrors that 42 lap stint that he had the first go round by 11 laps. So almost clear perfectly, which makes things very interesting for, say, a Malillo or an Iraqi, because if that's the case, then that means that those two are probably right on that mark as it stands of finishing off a fuel run right around lap 250.
And if we continue to see that those issues on pit road for people who are having issues blending on or getting speeding penalties, we just take that out and extrapolate it over the course of the next couple of runs. It's going to be a battle of people who just execute appropriately. Like, you don't need to be making time up on pit road. You don't need to be making up time on pit exit. Yes, you need to maintain draft, but if you can continue to execute and keep your name in the picture, I think you're going to be in a good position to just float your way towards the top of the points chart. And we're already seeing right now 9 cars on the lead lap. That usually means that anyone who's off that lead lap after a pit cycle's completed has had some sort of issue. And I mean, look at, you got Joseph Brewer 6 laps down. That is a cascade of penalties that moved him from being on the lead lap, just hitting a pit exit cone, causing a bit of an issue that just feels, I mean, frankly, just out of your control, and letting that get to your head, and then the cascade of issues that went on top of that. So
also curious here, because we haven't really talked about it. I don't know what happened to Michael Deitch, because he was up there fighting for the lead, and he lost a significant amount of time. He's now a solid 10 seconds back of the race leader, and he's all by himself too.
Yeah, I really think that was just, I mean, losing time on pit entry. We saw how much time he lost to Hamilton Akabuezi on the pit entry, and then I'm sure that extrapolated just on the pit re-entry and not being aggressive enough. Now, I said, don't make mistakes. You also got to be not too conservative, otherwise you're going to end up in Deitch's situation where you're just losing time on track. He was 5 seconds back from Akabuezi about 10 laps ago, now about 7.5, 8 seconds back behind Akabuezi. So that's something that you just got to be careful of. You don't want to do that. I would say it's almost more valuable to Deitch to just lose a couple more seconds, maybe 4 more seconds, and work with Saucier and Brewer to just stay on a fuel strategy.
I would not disagree, truthfully, especially if we get a yellow. It may end up being easier, and if those two are able to work together, it may be a moot point, because they're only about 3 3/4 seconds back of him, and if they work together, they may be able to just run down Deitch, which may also be sort of his thinking here too. Not necessarily to lose the track position he has, but to just let them catch up to him, and then he'll worry about running a fuel strat.
Yeah, right now you see Egger and Malillo keep on doing that dance at the front of the pack to try and save fuel and keep the pace of the race up, because I don't want those drivers behind to be able to catch up. Unfortunately for Justin, Akabuezi is still a part of this lead pack, and if you missed it at the beginning of this race, Akabueze currently second in points, just needs to make sure he doesn't bleed 30 points to Malillo, and he'll be okay and he'll be happy and secured with his position presently as it stands. On the contrary, Akabueze would love to see Malillo have issues. If Akabueze could go out there and win it and Malillo finishes 13th or worse, Akabueze could be the Triple Crown champion. Several different championships happening at the same time. 3, in fact. We have the Drivers' Championship, which has already been settled. Brandon Hawken is our Driver Championship right now. Team Championship, which is still up for grabs. And the Triple Crown Championships presented by MAT Liveries is also up for grabs as well as it stands right now. But Malillo, with a first and a second place finish, has a 40-point lead over it and is about darn near secured with that. Actually, I believe Malillo has won it at this point in time.
Well, it depends, I think, because if you have that gap, remember that you still got, what, 15 cars running at this stage? So...
yeah, that's actually true. You're right. You're right.
So, not impossible, but improbable. Let's
very,
say
very improbable.
Very improbable. Yes.
You are very much correct. There are at this present time, we got 15 cars out on track as it stands. So we need 3 more cars to be taken out of the picture for Justin Malillo, who is our present leader, mind you, who has not finished worse than second at a Triple Crown race this year. Is all he needs to do is just continue to maintain that and hope that maybe 3 more cars go ahead and exit this race. And if that happens, then he is in a very pretty position.
So Malillo, Eggert doing a nice job of just playing off the runs of each other, which, to your point that you just made, Josh, this is how you keep the pace of a lead pack up. You essentially just pass each other and pass each other and pass each other, stay in the draft, take advantage of the runs that you get, and the 2 leaders just sort of swap off again and again and again and again. And we're seeing this executed really, really nicely between 2 drivers who really have a good understanding of how to run open wheels on an oval. Seth Eggert has won countless races in oval racing with open wheel cars here on the service. We know about Malillo's exploits, won the Rectangle 500 earlier this season, so we know he can get it done too. So these are 2 of the smartest drivers, and I think 2 of the drivers with the best racecraft in open wheel cars amongst all of them in the Modern Racing Prince.com FTF1 Series. So I'm not surprised that we're seeing a really high level of racecraft being exhibited here with this strategy, and it's neat to see it play out and see them work this so systematically.
Yeah, both Seth and Malillo are namestays in the sim racing sphere for both their on-track activities and their off-track coverage. They both go out of their way to cover a lot of major events throughout sim racing, and you know, it makes me kind of happy to see them both out there first and second right now, capturing that current position of first and second. And I believe Malillo, he really could use a win right now. He's had a very, very tough week and looking to try and go ahead and capture just a win to encapsulate the or kind of have a positive to end on a very rough week that it's been for Justin Malillo.
We love Justin Malillo in this household.
Yes, we do. We absolutely do. As we see on board right now with Justin Malillo, we're about 34 laps into this stint right now. We're rapidly approaching that pit window, and we'll see what happens here. And if you remember earlier, I said Joseph Brewer is having a really bad, not so good day. And right now, the lead pack is rapidly approaching Joseph Brewer to put him in an additional lap down. That will make him 7 laps down as he gets into the wall. Yeah, that's just one of those days that you want to go home and not remember. That's unfortunate for Joseph Brewer.
Just not the day you'd want to have the end of the season, but yeah, it's a no good, very bad, terrible sort of day.
Yeah, we just heard the 38 car, who is now going to have to come down pit road and get pit service. That right now, his run was 35 laps. So that tells you right there just how much fuel you burn if you're by yourself.
big time burns here. You figure Malillo and Naraki are probably going to be next. And speaking of, right on cue, here they come. It's those two. 38 coming to 39, so just about the same run that they put together. Yeah, that was closer than I think Naraki would have liked. But
and Justin Malillo, a black flag.
Oh, no. Speeding, I assume?
Yes. Speeding on pit entry. We'll see what kind of penalty that will levy for him. I imagine that'll be a 40-second hold here on pit road. That is an unfortunate penalty for Justin Malillo. He now needs like caution to get himself back into the picture. Oh.
And that will also split up the team of Malillo and Naraki that have worked so well throughout this race too. Let's not forget that.
Yeah. A couple more drivers come down pit road. Matthew Brewer, Brian Sabelski come down pit road this time by. That is so unfortunate. Oh my goodness. And the black flags just keep on getting issued. Brian Sabelski, too fast pit entrance.
So again, the question we ask here as Eggert comes down for service, when does Brandon Hawken come down pit road?
We'll see. He's presently racing side by side with Hamilton Akabueze. No more fuel saving, just trying to go out there and I imagine just run a couple of very quick laps while he's on almost a Q setup with a colder track and very light fuel load. Him and Hamilton Akabueze are going to go and do a little bit of dancing to try and make that happen. Justin Malillo will leave pit road ahead of these drivers. And I can tell you, or behind these drivers, Justin Malillo will be exiting pit road. Justin has got to be furious right now.
Mad at himself, I would figure. But yeah, I also think it's worth noting that I feel like we could officially say that Hawken, Akabueze, and Richie Price are all essentially of the same mindset at this point, where it's we're going to run each stint as long as we can. We're going to stay out as long as we can. We're going to pit later than everybody else. We're going to see how it shakes out over 2 or 3 or 4 green flag runs. But it's not just Hawken, I think, on that strategy anymore. I think we can safely put Akabueze and Richie Price into that camp too. And
the hits just keep on coming here, James. Seth Eggert, blend violation.
This is going to be I'm about to say, this is now quickly becoming a battle of who isn't going to get in some form of trouble coming out of pit road. That may be the differentiator. It might not necessarily be speed. It may be who doesn't get a black flag. That might tell us who's going to win this race.
Yeah, this is very quickly devolving into a race of just managing the racing rules. That, like, to win the race, you must race within the rules, and you got to be the best one to race within the rules and not make mistakes on pit road. And we have seen so many drivers on pit road making mistakes this time by. As Brandon Hawken announces he's going to come down pit road, Akabueze is going to join him on pit road. Jamie Richie Price also going to join him. And look at that. Akabueze absolutely sends it on the outside and gets it right down to speed, right on time.
43 laps for Hamilton Akabueze, which is the longest stint we've seen out of anyone so far tonight. So file that away for the memory bank if you need to.
Now it's all about executing on pit road. I almost don't want to watch the racing on track. I want to make sure that these drivers all go down pit road, and more importantly, all get back onto the racetrack without making any mistakes. Very quick pit stops here. Imagine about 10 seconds in total. We'll see them. They're lowered onto their jacks, waiting for fuel, and they'll go ahead and roll off here. But you absolutely cannot go above that white line, that second white line. They're fine to be on the one on that inside. Cannot go to that outside white line. Cannot go above it. And apparently not hit that blue cone either.
Let's say right in the middle, right in between everything. And it's Akabueze, Hawken, and Richie Price who are scored as the leaders now. And Naraki will be the one to try and chase them down. But look at the gap. And look at the difference in stints here. These drivers just came down pit road. Naraki, Deitch, Brewer, all at least 6 laps into this fuel run. Fuel matters more than tires here. So I think definitely want to file that away for later on in the evening because that's big.
Yeah, you see how much time they were able to build over Saucier, Brewer, and Deitch, that 22-second gap. I think that's all down to the fact that they stayed out on for just a few more laps and just executed flawlessly on pit road. They had very fast laps on a low fuel load, and that's exactly how Akabueze won the US 500 at the beginning of the year. And now he's out there and he's just doing the same thing here at Auto Club with Hawken.
So can you trade off and can you start working together if you're Hawken and Akabueze, and or if you're Akabueze, do you just want to take advantage of the chaos that we've seen on pit road when we consider that pretty much half of the cars still running in this race have incurred some form of pit road violation? If you're Akabueze, are you more inclined to work with somebody that's a lap down maybe than someone like Hawken who still is on the lead lap?
I mean, it's definitely going to be a better situation for yourself if you can try to jump out in front of Hawken and get him far enough backwards. However, you are going to burn more fuel here, and Hawken is getting, oh my goodness, that gets really close through turns 1 and 2. I believe that was Deitch and Brewer. They're not going to be able to save gas quite as much as Saucier is. So if Saucier, Deitch, and Brewer all save gas just enough to participate and be in the picture, I mean, they could do the same exact thing that Akabueze, Hawken, and you see, actually, Akabueze has fallen back to Hawken. So those drivers are all now back in a pack with Cody Ware also participating. Cody showed speed early in the race, just got caught up in an early incident. So Cody Ware back out there and now is a part of this lead battle pack.
So you've got Akabueze and Hawken working together, and I'll be curious to see. It looks like, yeah, we're starting to see the same trading of runs and of the lead amongst that group that we saw with Naraki and Malillo on the last green flag stint. So I think they, too, are trying to save as much fuel as they can. And how much can they stretch this on the rest of the field? And or can you put yourself in a position where maybe you're able to take a little bit less fuel and maybe make a splashing on pit road as opposed to a fuel stop and a full stop outright at the end of this, like at this stage I would expect from a Naraki, a Deitch, a Brewer, a Malillo, or somebody of that ilk who we know hasn't been saving as much fuel.
It'd be very, very hard to do. I do believe you're going to have at least 2 more stops at a bare minimum. You could try and make this a little bit longer and then make that second stop a very quick splash and go like you had mentioned. I mean, you want to fill up the car as little as possible. The lap time differential right now, as it stands, on fresh tires right now, these cars are about 0.6 to 0.7 of a second slower per lap because of the fuel load. So that's something to keep in mind. It's just how much fuel load matters in these cars.
Those three that you see on screen working together, Ware not part of that bunch and currently scored 3 laps down after the pit violation that Cody incurred a little bit earlier. The next cars in line are Naraki and Richie Price, who, again, looks like this is pretty consistent from everybody now. It's the same swap positions and save fuel strategy. Everybody saw what Malillo and Naraki were able to do, and I think they're just all ripping from the same playbook at this point.
Absolutely. And right now, Hawken has caught up to his teammate Pandicio. A part of me in the back of my head was thinking that maybe Pandicio and Hawken were going to work together. And it looks like that might actually be the case here. Hawken drove by him initially and made me think, okay, well, maybe not. But I think what this might be is a play for Hawken to try and stay the leader of the race, but also be able to do this draft dancing.
I think professional cycling, where if you watch the end of a stage at like the Tour de France or the Giro d'Italia or the Vuelta de España, you see a lot of the sort of lower sort of ranked members on a team create a lead-out train and get in front of the person that they want to try and win the stage, especially if it's a flat sprinty stage. And they will essentially sort of clear the path for him and run ahead of him and take the strain off of them trying to pull the train forward. And I sort of think that's what Hawken and Pandicio, to your point, are trying to pull off here.
Yeah, so what you're referring to is Peloton racing, where they go out in front and kind of just create a gap, and they use the draft to help them go ahead and go out in front. We see it in bicycling a lot, and actually, very interestingly, I will reference this back to the podcast that I participate in, the Money Lab podcast. We spoke to Formula E CEO, and Formula E is very much known for the same exact thing. They have this drafting racing battle where almost every single race is not really a fuel strategy, but an electricity strategy race of just trying not to overuse your energy to run out. And it's a very similar circumstance here where they're trying to do their best to maintain speed, but also don't burn up too much fuel.
Taking notes. I hope that our audience is, because that's some really good stuff, Josh. Truly, very very enlightening. I think that's our word of the day. Enlightening. Sort of like how the light is fading off the mountains here. Really cool stuff by iRacing to get the sunsets right here at California. I remember when they ran here on Labor Day for a few years in the mid-2000s, and the sunset would be really incredible to watch on TV and looked really, really cool. And we're sort of seeing that same sort of sky now where the lights are starting to come on here at the racetrack. Sun's going down, moon's coming up. So I just really want a piece of cake right now, honestly. That would be tasty.
A piece of cake?
Yeah. If I'm going to make a cake reference, I can be hungry for like an actual piece of cake, right?
That's fair. Okay.
I hope that one didn't go over your head. It's not the first time we've done it tonight.
So Jake Poulin in chat says they say you use up to 40% less energy when you're being behind someone on a bike. Similar thing he says when it comes to fuel here. So that is a massive fuel saving if you can make it happen.
So we basically have the same idea that everybody else on the racetrack did. And it's just a matter of who's going to be able to execute it. But we're all thinking the same way at this point.
Yeah, right now we'll see the leaders are going to go ahead and pass the slower lap car of Brewer, and Brewer hits the wall again. My goodness. That is one of those tough days. I almost don't want to mention it anymore so I don't make him feel bad.
What's beyond terrible, horrible, no good, very bad? That's the next step. I mean, if anything, I guess he should just be glad that his name's Joseph, not Alexander. Otherwise, we'd really be playing into that outright, wouldn't we?
Yeah, absolutely. That's absolutely true. As we see Hawken and Pandicio continuing to race side by side. Now, keep in mind, Pandicio, I believe, is battling to be not 2 laps down, but 1 lap down here. So in this situation, Pandicio wants to be ahead of Hawken at the time of caution if it were to come out, and that would give him at least an opportunity to be 1 lap down right now as it stands. We're looking at about 89 laps to go here in the ModernRacingPrince.com FTF1 Series. You're not going to miss any of it. Should be some action on the side of the screen here on Twitch, but we'll be right back here in a little bit. Welcome back to the ModernRacingPrince.com FTF1 Series. And during that break, you might have noticed we have two new players in this lead pack. Richie Price and Naraki were able to close the gap very, very quickly to these lead lap cars. Now this is a 6-car battle for the lead. Well, sort of. Asterisk. 2 of those cars are lap down cars and participating in this race. You got Cody Ware as well as Ryan Pandicio in that lead pack that are participating as just happy to be there, folks. But as you see right now, a 6-car battle in this lead pack.
They have started to come back together. So Hawken, Akabueze, Richie Price, and Naraki are the 4 in the mix here. Riding on board with Naraki, who is the last one in this group. And then you've got the lap machine, the Pandicio up there. But this is all your race leaders, and also by extension, all but 3 of the cars that have not incurred some form of pit road entry or exit or speeding penalty. We've seen a lot of that. Malillo, Goke, Pandicio, Eggert, Goyette, Ware, all with some form of penalty that they've had to serve over the course of this race, and that's put them further back in the field. So again, we're seeing stratification of the field based upon who has had to serve a penalty and who has not. The other thing that I'm watching are the stint lengths and how soon or how late everybody, especially at the front of the field, has come down pit road. Naraki is on his 33rd lap within this stint. So you imagine, unless he's saving, he's got only about 6 or 7 more laps to go. Hawken, Akabueze, and Price are all on the same strategy. They came down only 26 laps ago, so they can stretch it about another 7 or 8 laps on Naraki, and that, at the end of the race, could mean something big.
Yeah, as it stands, though, currently, Malillo is the first car 1 lap down. So that is something we'll keep our eye on. Is right now, presently, if the caution were to come out, Malillo would get his lap back and be a part of this picture once again. But, I mean, I don't know about you. I don't see it happening unless it happens between Ryan Pandicio and Brandon Hawken. We don't see any other cars really out on track that are driving all that aggressively.
Nobody really trying to take the lead away from Hawken. I think, if anything, they recognized how good he's been at fuel saving throughout this race, and they sort of want to let him be the car in front to have to pull the train to burn a little bit more fuel so everybody else can catch up. I think at this stage, everybody else is mindful of it. So I get why they wouldn't want to pass him now, and they want to, force him to work with his teammate and wait to make a move on him until the end.
Yeah, right now, we mentioned it earlier. Pandicio is playing a bit of a gamble. If a caution does come out and he is stuck behind his teammate of Hawken, that he would be actually forced to take the wave around to go from 2 laps down to 1 lap down, which would be a very unfortunate situation if he wanted to try and get a lap back. Otherwise, he would have to come down pit road and stay 2 laps down. Whereas if he's out in front of Hawken when that caution were to come out, he would get a lap back. And that's it's the difference from 2 laps down to 1 lap down, James. What is that difference?
This feels like a trick question.
It's not just 1 lap. It's a very, I'll just say this. Getting from 2 laps down to 1 lap down back onto the lead lap is a much difficult task, because it's much easier for other cars to get to 1 lap down than it typically is for you to get your
lap back. Okay.
Yes.
I see where you're going with that now. I did not immediately catch that, but I get your point now. You're right. That it's easier to get a pool of cars all 1 lap down than it is for one car to separate itself from that group and go from 1 lap down to the lead lap. And in order
we got a wreck here. Oh, and that almost involves our lead pack. And oh my goodness, as we mentioned it, guess who was out in front of our leader?
Ryan
Pandicio.
How about it? How about it?
And things just got very interesting for the tail end of this race. We have a caution with 76 laps to go. Brian Saucier, Michael D.H. were involved in that incident. We'll go ahead and figure out who else might have been involved and how that might have occurred to begin with. So we see the replay right here.
It just got
Whoa.
loose. Dice just got, I mean, that has extreme 2018 Indy 500 vibes where the air just came off of the rear wing for whatever reason and just got loose in the center of the corner. And I don't think there's much that he could have done to try and save it. And then nothing that Saucier could have done to avoid him because he was already so close.
Yeah, that was a very hard impact. And man, that about took our leader of Hawken out when all of that kind of settled. See right there's Hawken, and then everyone else kind of shifts around the track to avoid the incident. Fortunate no one else got involved there, but boy, was that a scary incident.
It's close. Meanwhile, leaders are on pit road for service, and this effectively kills most of the fuel saving strategy that Hawken and all them had been trying to put together. That advantage that they had gained with the laps now basically gone, and you're looking at a 75 lap window. So if anything, you're going to be able to short pit it a little bit, I'd say.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you have there is still a couple of strategies here. Do you want to run low fuel mode right now to maybe try and break yourself up from everyone else, and maybe underfuel it a little bit to go to your regular stop to know when you can make it to the end? Or do you do a full fuel load and then do that low fuel load on the second half? So
I think this saves actually saves two people in particular, but above all, Ryan Naraki, I think, becomes the big winner out of this because he was already behind the rest of the field a few laps because he hadn't been saving as much fuel. But now we're at a point where it doesn't matter. And if you decide to split this final stretch of 70-some laps into two and come down and pit under green, if it comes to it, you'd be pitting about, 34, 35 laps in? And that's earlier than any point that Naraki or Melillo, for that point even, have come down pit road at any stretch during this race so far. So I really like where this sets those two, and I would imagine that with the way they've approached this race, that the likely play for them is to kind of try and split this evenly. And we may see somebody like a Hawken or Akabueze stay out and try and run it long, like you said, but I almost would rather sort of err on the side of caution and come down a little bit earlier in this case if we go green for the next 35 laps or so. But the Rocky Merlillo tandem really, I think, coming out big winners from the yellow.
yeah, Melillo back on the lead lap here. We're looking at 1 lap to green, but certainly it's an unfortunate situation for Saucier and H, both out of the race, and that leaves 13 cars, I believe, on the track at this point in time. We'll see how that plays out, but right now that basically gives Melillo a little bit more padding on the Triple Crown Championship presented by MAT Liveries. We'll see what happens here, but Akabueze out in front, and right now you'll see Akabueze is going to start giving some space to the pace car in front when he chooses, and that restart allows him that he can start his roll on the restart by the Auto Club sign off of turn number 4, where that starts. We'll see when he begins doing that.
When will Akabueze go? What kind of strategy will we see? Also worth noting that Melillo and Naraki and Matthew Brewer are now back on the lead lap with the way this all pans out. So that, I think, also worth sort of filing away. We have a few folks that get to join the fray once again.
Absolutely. You see that he has waited to roll until very late, and waiting until the green flag. Oh, we got one into the outside wall, and I believe that was Cody Ware. Unfortunately, she slipped the tires, but Justin Melillo, oh my goodness gracious, with an incredible drive towards the front. Justin Melillo is already up to 5th place. He was at the tail end of the field.
had all the trouble on pit road about 100 laps ago when he had to serve the penalty, and now Malillo in great position, fighting for a spot in the top 5, but right there with Haken, with Akabueze, with Naraki, with Richie Price, and if anything, we'll have to see whether or not Haken and Akabueze are able to maintain the gap that they have from the rest of the field, because it's just those two, and they've got about 2 seconds on Richie Price, who leads the second group in third. But can Akabueze and Haken work together enough to stay 2 seconds ahead, or will the strength of that pack behind just be too much?
I mean, 2 cars is all you need to be able to do the draft dance, and we'll see if they're going to make it happen. Haken and Akabueze have a lot of respect for one another. They've been racing each other all season long. They know how it's like to race each other. They have that mutual respect, and they know if they can keep that gap in front of the rest of this pack, that it's just going to be settled between the two of them. And I don't imagine that Haken and Akabueze are going to do anything to compromise that lead gap. But right now it's 1.75 seconds. We'll see if that gets decreased or increased over the next couple of laps.
Watching the gap here. It's still holding at about 2 seconds. Oh, trouble! Trouble on the front straightaway. Yellow flag is out. One car into the fence. Couldn't tell who it was immediately, but trouble. And I think it is Ryan Araki ends up in the wall. And I think Pandicio was the other one. So those two now falling to the wayside after fighting for, just a little bit of track position in turn 1, and now race over for both of them.
Ben Goyette also got a little bit of contact there, and very minor incident, but the two Ryans got connected together. And that's unfortunate indeed, as we'll see a replay here of what exactly occurred. It looks like a draft gone wrong. Oh, man.
A little bit of shades of Casey Kane and Danica Patrick a few years ago down the front stretch. A similar sort of incident where you're trying to clear yourself and you're not quite as clear as you thought you might be. And then all of a sudden, boom, we'll get a good look here off the back of, really, really close there. Pandicio had that huge closing run entering turn 1, and Naraki, I think, tried to get up there in time to block it, and then all of a sudden, there it is.
Unfortunate indeed. It looks like another driver, Brian Sabelski, got a black flag there. I believe he's going to get a black flag cleared. Yeah, he did get that black flag clear, as he was trying to avoid it and had to go down, dive to the pit entry or pit exit area, and got an unsafe pit entry penalty. But we'll see a couple of drivers are going to come down pit road here, and I imagine this is just an opportunity to top up their fuel. I don't think you would want to get any additional tires here. I think you just want to try and get as much fuel as you could.
So this now, I believe, would put Seth Eggert back on the lead lap, I think.
I believe that's correct. I don't believe anyone's been issued the wave around just yet. I believe that would be Seth Eggert, would be the first car 1 lap down that should get his wave around at any moment. And right now, Sabelski, if he chooses to stay out, actually, no, Jonathan Goke was given the wave around, so maybe Jonathan Goke was the first car 1 lap down.
So Goke is the one who ends up being the beneficiary. But again, for these drivers that ended up in trouble, that wrecked or had to deal with, or rather not wrecked, but ended up with some of these pit road violations, they're getting their lifelines back off the back of these incidents.
Yeah, so right now, as it stands, Eggert would be the lucky dog if another caution were to come out. But yeah, no, Jonathan Goke was just barely 1 lap down at the time of the previous caution, and he'll get his lap back. And that's just so uncharacteristic for Goke. I feel like Goke normally has a lot of pace at these races, and it just feels like he just doesn't have that same pace that he normally does here. So we'll see if he's able to get it rolling and get back this lifeline, be able to roll that into a little bit of pace here and get back into the battle for the lead.
And whether or not Eggert might be able to find his way back in, you almost feel if you're, well, wait a second.
Looks like he'll be getting the wave around.
a wave around, yeah, so he'll get back to the end of the group. But
So he'll be on a different fuel strategy than the rest of these drivers. It looked like Brewer, Hawken, and Melillo. We'll go. I'm gonna go back and just check to see if they got any tires on that pit cycle, or if that was just strictly a. Yeah, it looks like a couple of drivers did take tires there, and topped off on fuel. Yep, every one of those drivers did go ahead and take tires. I guess tires are not the limiting factor there for a fuel top off.
at this point, it's almost a why not, right?
Yeah,
sort of thing.
exactly.
You know, if
Exactly.
you have the opportunity and you're leading, you know, no point in track position. I won't say it doesn't mean anything, but it doesn't mean as much as it would in other places. So
I'm currently checking right now, but I believe with this most recent caution that I believe that moves Justin Melillo into a guaranteed position to win the Triple Crown Championship as timing and scoring updates over the next couple of laps. We will keep you posted if Justin Melillo is the Triple Crown champion, just by the merit of mathematical odds. But green flag will be displayed here. Brandon Hawken will take control of the race and continue to try and reestablish that 2-second lead that they were enjoying on the last restart. Unfortunately, not quite able to get away as far ahead of Melillo as they were last time. And Melillo was hot on their tail as they go 3 cars, and it looks like potentially 5 cars could join for that lead battle here in no time.
look at Hamilton Akabueze right to the front, right clear of Brandon Hawken. Melillo will sit on the rear wing of Hawken and wait for maybe the right opportunity. I don't necessarily think he's inclined to jump right out to the front, but if he sees it go, it'll work. And Hawken got that great run down the front stretch on Akabueze and decided to just jump right underneath them. And Melillo, I think, is going to sit here in third and just sort of hang. We'll see whether or not he decides to fight Richie Price or Matthew Brewer, but we can see Akabueze and Hawkins certainly not afraid to swap the lead. You see Akabueze back to the inside in the middle of 3 and 4.
Yeah, right now we see them, they're single file at the moment, but that is only temporary as Hawken goes to the inside of Akabueze. The draft dancing has just once again picked right up where it left off. 5 cars in this front lead pack. Jonathan Goke about 7 car lengths back from this lead pack. No one helping him with the draft dance at the moment, but Seth Eggert, who also got his lap back, will go ahead and join Jonathan Goke to try and close up that gap. You'll see them in the background of the screen, but Eggert and Goke quickly making their way towards the front lead pack again. Once a lap down, now back on that lead lap with these last set of cautions, bringing a lot of lifelines for those who had issues on pit road today.
Really has brought a lot of drivers back into this. Melillo, I know, is, I think, very thankful that he's got a second chance at this, albeit without his teammate Ryan Naraki, who got caught up in that incident with Ryan Pandisio. So going to have to work alone. But same for Brandon Hawken, who lost his teammate in that crash. Same for Akabueze, who hasn't really had much team help up here. So it really is sort of mano a mano amongst the leaders.
As it stands right now, Seth Eggert, Jonathan Goke were all able to join back up, bring Ben Goyette as well into this pack. And this whole lead pack, I believe every single one of these drivers that you see in this lead pack are in contention and on the lead lap. So these drivers are all out here trying to win their last opportunity to have a Triple Crown race or add to their current collection of Triple Crown wins this year.
With the exception of Seth Eggert, who you see on the inside there, third car in your frame, the white and red kicking the tires machine. He is on the tail end of the lead lap if he can get clear of Akabueze and Hawkins. So he is racing to try and get back on the lead lap to give himself a chance to win this if they go under yellow. And Melillo's going to follow underneath him. So he's got a valid reason to be fighting up there. And that should make the battle up at the front interesting because you've got drivers with different agendas. And if you're Eggert, you've got more, I think, reason to try and hold the lead ahead of a Hamilton Akabueze or a Brandon Hawken or a Justin Melillo even. I would expect Eggert to fight for the track position more than just about anybody else.
Yeah, and you know what? I also got to correct myself. Goyette's also in that position of being laps down. He's just the 8th car in line. He's 2 laps down, and He is currently cheering on Seth Eggert, telling him, hey, Seth, go race and get your lap back, because if Seth Eggert is on the lead lap at the time of the next caution, if it were to happen, who would be the lucky dog? Ben Goyette.
Yep,
and he would get an additional lap back and put him one lap down and put him in a very similar situation that Seth Eggert is in currently. So that's something that Goyette or Eggert doesn't have a bigger fan currently than Goyette, who's currently in 8th place.
Goyette definitely would love to see this. As it stands, Eggert is back on the lead lap. You see it on timing and scoring. It is a solid 35 seconds back of the field, but Eggert would be scored on the lead lap if we got a yellow now. He needs one to reset this race and to have an opportunity to really fight for the win, but as of now, Seth Eggert is in contention for this and has clawed his way back into the fight.
Curious to see if Hawken is back to clutching. And he is. Hawken is clutching once again in his car. So I think you know where the strategy is for Hawken. Stay out as absolutely long as possible to try and separate himself from these other drivers who are burning a lot more fuel. We'll see if anyone else is going to be joining him on this potential strategy to save just a thimble of fuel over the course of a fuel run.
Will the thimble make a difference? I'm not particularly convinced. You're still going to have to come down, I think, at least once, no matter what. It's just a matter of when you make that and what value do you assign short pitting, which, just based upon the way we've seen these drivers run, I look squarely at your race leader, Justin Melillo, second car in frame behind Eggert, who's on the tail end of the lead lap, but much like Naraki, we talked about a little bit earlier, he is the one amongst these drivers that would come down earliest and did come down earlier than everybody else in the early stages of this race on those green flag runs. So I would think Melillo is probably the most likely candidate to short pit this. And if we go green, that could pay some pretty handsome dividends because you figure it would give him the track position. And the stints are going to be so short that I don't know if you're going to get a lot of advantage by fuel saving outside of maybe staying out of the way of an incident.
And I do have some updated news. It looks and appears that at this present time, Justin Melillo, as he's leading the last Triple Crown race at the present moment, by pure elimination of other drivers, will be able to collect enough points to fend off any sort of chance that Akabueze had to close and potentially capture that Triple Crown champion title. So Justin Melillo at this time is now your Triple Crown champion with nothing to worry about.
Just needs to essentially hope that where Pandicio or Naraki don't come out. I think if 13th is the marker, then doing the math here, and there's a 21 lap gap as it stands, I think in about 15 laps or so, we can call it official. We'll have to let that gap for Cody Ware to the race leaders grow so that just couldn't catch back up with the laps remaining left in the race. But looking very good for Melillo on that front. But Melillo, he wants more. He wants 2 legs at the Triple Crown. He wants victory. He wants to back up what he did at Indianapolis. And getting a lot of help from Seth Eggert just by sitting in his draft. If he wants to sit here and just sort of wait this one out, it's definitely a possibility. He can maybe run this long if he so chooses.
Yeah, for sure. And it is important to note that Naraki and Pandicio have too much damage to return to the track. So I definitely think he's safe, but there is a small opportunity there if somehow, some way they're able to get those cars repaired and back out on track. That just does not look possible given the damage that they currently have on their car. But Seth Eggert, he's out on the lead lap, leading this field, burning up fuel, taking a hit for the rest of the drivers out there, and the draft dancing seems to have ceased in the meantime.
Yeah, no, it really is. Seth, I think, is just sort of playing Pied Piper. I mean, he has to at this point, right? And everybody else in this lead pack that is on the lead lap knows that Seth has to run up there. And I think, in a sense, that sort of plays to the advantage of the cars that were already on the lead lap, because you don't really have any incentive to pass him. You can just sort of sit in his wake and catch his draft. So Seth can burn all the fuel that he has to, and nobody really has any incentive to pass him, and that may end up working against Eggert, because if no one has any incentive to pass him, I think they have less incentive to try and go side by side, and you decrease the chances that somebody wrecks. So make of that what you will.
Absolutely, and I'm actually going to start focusing my eyes on the second place in the Drivers' Championship with Akabueze and Malilla. Once again, the two names from the previous championship fight that we've had our eyes so keenly on. Akabueze right now, as it stands, he's losing about 15 points to Malillo. That's not enough for Malillo to close the gap to get to second place at present time. That's 30 points. But if Akabueze has any issues and falls back to 8th or worse, he could potentially lose second place in points, and that's definitely on the table. That is, there's 10 cars presently out on track running at this time, and at a moment's notice, anything can happen. We've seen it, and Akabueze could be knocked out of this race.
Could. We've seen so many drivers just in a split second go from contenders to falling out of this. Michael Deitch comes to mind. We saw the incident between Raki and Pandicio that played up. So it's one of those, you have to have lightning quick reflexes all the time with these cars, because again, you're in excess of 240 miles an hour entering turn 3 here.
Yeah, absolutely. And as long as Akabueze can finish 7th or better, then he's secured his second place points in the championship. And there's a lot to look at with that team championship, but I don't have my stats guy trained up enough to figure out what we need to see for that, to figure out who can position themselves where in that team championship. But as it stands right now, Malillo out in front. He's doing everything he needs to do to potentially add another Triple Crown to his title list.
Triple Crown, race win. Not really much of a challenge from Matthew Brewer, who's driven up to second. Not a bad drive at all from Brewer.
Yeah, absolutely. And right now, I'm just looking at the constructors' titles. We have the Clowns and the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse are the two cars that will be looking at potentially, or the teams that are looking at potentially getting the constructors' titles. Presently, that differential is about 25 points. I will confirm that here in a little bit. But there is Hawken and Pandicio are also in that battle as well. So we'll get an update on that here in a minute, but plenty of time. We'll still need to come down pit road one more time. So many penalties we've seen down there. So, but that is something at the moment. I think right now we're going to go ahead and just keep our eye out, see when someone comes down pit road.
And speaking of pit road, you look at the lap counter, 42 laps to go. That's about the longest we've seen anyone come in. So someone in theory could come in now and make it to the end. However, if you are splitting the remainder of this race from the last time these cars came down pit road into two equal pieces, you are waiting for your pit stop for about another 7 or 8 laps, just off of my math. Just sort of eyeballing. Not sure if that's 100% right. We'll get it nailed down as we get a little bit closer, but you are waiting. Now, also worth noting that Seth Eggert is on a 33-lap stint, so he probably only has about 5 or 6 laps left before he has to come down pit road. I wonder, though, if we may see a lot of people try and come in with him because the timing might just be right. And if you're essentially playing it safe here at the end of this, you're coming down as soon as you can split the final green flag run into 2 equal parts. And we are quickly approaching that point for most of the field, all of them working on a 27-lap stint now. So 27, 40, yeah, about 7 laps from now, I think, is when I would expect a lot of the field to try and come in.
Can I offer you this perspective, James? What if you stay out as long as possible? We've seen just how quick being on low fuel is. And if you stay out as long as possible, you're going to have to put less fuel in. And you're spending more time towards a more empty fuel situation, allowing you to have faster laps.
It's
Is that
possible.
something?
It's possible. It's definitely mathematically possible, and I think you do gain a little bit of speed with the low fuel. But I think that really only works out in your favor if you need a yellow flag. So I look at somebody like a Ben Goyette in particular stands out as the kind of driver who I believe would benefit more than anybody else from staying out, because if he catches a yellow, then he can get a lap back immediately, right? But if you don't get a yellow, just with the way the field has worked, as we see more great battling for the lead. We've seen the short pit work. We've seen drivers gain time. We've seen drivers lose time by staying out longer than everybody else. So I don't know if it's really to the advantage of a lot of the lead lap cars to try it. But Goyette, you don't really have anything to lose because you're not on the lead lap anyway. So, why not, right? So if there's anybody that stays out long, I think he's the one.
Yeah, I would actually, I'm willing to throw another name in there. Just because I think, of all people, he's the most gambler because he's got nothing to lose, and I think that's Hawken. I feel like Hawken might be one who'll be willing to stay out longer just to spend more time on a low fuel load situation to make up a few, maybe 2 or 3 seconds, if he can find someone else like Goyette to participate with him in this strategy. And between the two of them, they could potentially gain a 1 to 2 second gap lead if it works out in their favor. That's the only other person I think. And you know what? I might as well stop talking. All our leaders are going to come down pit road, or our two main ones right there, Akabueze and Hawken, come down pit road. So there you go.
They short pit. They didn't even stretch it long, because we've seen Hawken and Akabueze stretch it long pretty much the whole night. But here they short pit ahead of everybody else. So they're looking for the track position, and they have even short pit the split a little bit by 2 laps. So that's interesting.
That is interesting. Definitely curious to see where everyone else comes down on pit road, to see what happens here, as we see several drivers go ahead and pass pit entrance this time by. And they will pass those 2 leaders on pit road. Those 2 are now exiting pit road. Hawken and Akabueze working together come down, and they finish their last pit stop of the day, it seems. And the rest of the field, all are going right now side by side. No one's said they're coming down pit road this time by. We'll see if anyone does. No one does.
All right, so if I'm in this lead pack, I'm coming down pit road this time by. If I were amongst the leaders, whether or not anybody actually does, I don't know, but this would be the lap that I would do it on.
Oh man, Seth Egger got really low to the ground there, almost hit the apron. That caused so many issues earlier on in the race. Fortunately, they were able to get away with it. See if anyone comes down this time by. Is anyone on James's strategy? James, you're looking lonely out there on that strategy.
Yeah, I am. So that's okay. So this is what this tells me. If everybody else on the lead lap is staying out and letting Akabueze and they're essentially giving Akabueze and Hawken time if this goes green, right? Mm-hmm. But I think they're that afraid of the ability of Hawken and Akabueze that they are willing to try and stay out as long as they can and trap those 2 a lap down to take them out of the picture, as Seth Eggert now comes down pit road. So it wouldn't necessarily work out that way at this stage. But I that's sort of my read on this, is that everybody else on the lead lap really does not want Hawken or Akabueze part of the picture, because they know how good those 2 are.
Yeah, absolutely. And looking at lap times right now, look at an Akabueze and Hawken. They are roughly 0.2 of a second faster, 0.3 of a second faster per lap than this lead pack. So somehow, some way, the fuel savings there and the speed on a low fuel load is not making it up. I don't think these drivers out in front are going quick enough and doing the draft dance as aggressively as Hawken and Akabueze are presently doing. And they are actually losing time, I think, by staying out on this track longer.
Yeah, all the leaders are going to lose time to Akabueze and Hawken as it stands. It's just a matter of when they decide to come in, which 38 lap stint for everybody now. So you would imagine within the next 3 to 4 laps, these leaders will have to come in, and then we'll get a read on what kind of gap they've given up to those two, and what sort of clawing back they'll have to do to reel in Haken and Akabueze in the final about 25 laps or so.
And people are starting to get upset with Matt Brewer. Brewer has been so conservative behind Melillo. Melillo finally spoke up and said, we're losing so much time. Gok is upset, saying, come on, guys, we're losing time to these guys. We need to be taking runs when we get them. So it looks like tempers are starting to get a little bit flared, as Brewer was playing very conservatively, but now the draft dancing has started to kick up. Justin Melillo is now taking that run. But I think Brewer just needs to start being a little bit more aggressive here.
I think the time for that has already sort of passed. We saw the cooperation with some of the other drivers in the field earlier, and we have not seen that over the course of this run with Brewer, much to the consternation of Melillo and Gok and potentially Richie Price and some of the other ones in this mix. So it's a matter of how much time are they going to lose, and what sort of work are they going to have to do to catch up to Haken and Akabueze once they come out of pit road.
Yeah, they've lost a little bit of time. I think at this point, once all these drivers come down pit road, unless they're able to get some excellent pit road running, as we see a little, oh boy, this gonna get a little bit nervous here, as we got a lap car on the outside that I believe is Brian Sabelski, and Brian's just gonna dive out of the way and not participate in that and get in the way. But I'm starting to think the battle for the win here is going to be between Haken and Akabueze.
Short pitting looked like a really, really smart call. I didn't like the idea of hanging out long and just running the strat. I figured you needed to come down a little bit earlier, and I'll be curious to see what the gap is between the pair that we've talked about and then the other four leaders when they do come down. 42 laps now. They did get some yellows, so you'll be able to run it maybe a lap or two more, but pit stop should be imminent for this front quartet.
Now, contrary to what was happening before, now that these guys started taking the runs, they are 0.4 of a second faster per lap now that they started taking runs. Unfortunately for them, too little too late, I think. All these drivers are talking about having to come down pit road now.
Well, I don't know. We'll see. They're going to have to make up some time to Haken and Akabueze. It's just a matter of how much. So looks like we're starting to see some pit stops get set up here, and then they'll come down. We'll see who gets a penalty and who doesn't, who ends up in trouble. Oh, that was really close. Brewer just about got into the back of Melillo and turned him on the entry to pit road. I was very nervous for a second there. But those three in Brewer, Richie Price, and Melillo, Gok decided to stay out. That's interesting, too. So he'll be sort of all by his lonesome. But what is the gap from Melillo, Richie Price, and Brewer to Haken and Akabueze once everybody's back up to full speed once again? That is the number we need to watch for.
Gok is still staying out, stays out again another lap here. And as it stands, Gok isn't alone, though. He's got Goyette, and he's got one other car. I believe that's Sabelski. Gok is going to have to come down pit road this time by, and I imagine Goyette will join him, but this is not the pit stop that you can make any mistakes on. So far, no black flags issued, but we'll see if everyone has learned their lesson from before, and if we can avoid getting hit by the traffic cop on the pit exit or pit entrance.
What a terrible stop. What happened to Richie Price and Brewer? They're nowhere to be seen in this, and Melillo is the only one that's sort of hanging off the rear end of Akabueze and Haken, and ever so slightly. He's just trying to grab any sort of draft he can. I think Melillo is going to be able to join that too and make it a three-car battle for the race win. But what happened to Richie Price and Brewer on that stop?
I think that the incident that happened early on there, Justin, actually, you know what? Oh no, it's a classic case of not setting the right amount of fuel. Justin Melillo, his pit stop time, 6.8 seconds. Brewer and Richie Price, 11.8 and 10.4 respectively. Put Melillo to the front of the Haken Akabueze train.
So how about Justin Melillo big braining this and only putting in as much fuel as he needed to make it to the end, while Richie Price and Brewer put in a full tank of gas? Therein lies the difference.
And look at that, Gok right there out in front as well. So look at that, Akabueze and Haken not able to separate themselves out just enough. a little bit of fuel, lighter fuel, I think brought Goke right back into this picture. And sure enough, at the end of the race, look who's battling for the win, but Jonathan Goke back into the picture.
So this is the part where we give you credit because you were the one that talked about staying out and putting in less fuel. And if you can manage to time that correctly and do that here on this final pit stop, it works. And it clearly has worked for Goke and Melillo. And now we have the final four that will likely contend for the win.
Yeah, these are the final four for sure. I don't think anyone else is going to be close. Jamie Ritchie Price, 5.25 seconds back. That's just such a gap to be able to close. I don't think that's going to be able to happen. His best chance would be with Matthew Brewer, but I haven't seen Brewer be aggressive enough on those drafting dances in order to make it happen. As we see Melillo and Goke, I really do think Melillo and Goke might actually be a little bit quicker, just fresher tires and a lighter fuel load. I believe between the two of them, if they start working together, they might be able to pull away from Haken and Akabueze. Now, I'm not 100% certain, but I think it's possible.
Really, really intriguing here. Here's a good look at Jonathan Goke. Classic attire in the Vikings jersey, as per usual. That fantastic die-cast collection we see up on the wall. Right there in the mix of things. Wouldn't he love to get a win here? As now that we have the four cars that are going to fight for the win, barring a yellow, this is when the racing's about to get really, really fun.
Unfortunately, I think those tires might have burned off, those fresh tires for Goke and Melillo, so now they're forced to contend with Akabueze and Haken. As you see, Haken is now out in front with those drivers. I think they really wanted to potentially spread a gap there. Goke and Melillo needed to work together and not race side by side like they were.
Starting to get dicey at the front. There goes Melillo to the outside of Brandon Haken for the race lead. Goke will follow in suit behind and will try and split the middle. You have to be careful here. If you end up making a wry move of some form, you can end up taking yourself out and cleaning out all four of these, and then that would hand advantage, I guess, back to Ritchie Price and Brewer.
Yeah, that absolutely would hand it back to those guys. You don't want to get involved in an incident. And I think Akabueze right now is just staying in the back, not wanting to overly participate in this battle because he sees what's happening right now. We got 15 laps to go. Don't really see the point of racing this aggressively at this point in time. But 15 laps is actually really not a lot of time. At 30-second lap times, that'll be over in no time.
Yeah, we're going to be done here in about maybe 5 or 6 minutes, maybe a little bit more than that, but not too much beyond that. So Melillo in control of this, then Goke, then Haken, then Akabueze. Almost looks like Haken and Akabueze have decided to lay back a little bit and let Goke and Melillo try and burn off whatever good they may still have on their tires before they make their charge closer to the checkered flag.
Right now, we see Goke and Melillo getting very close to each other. Jamie Ritchie Price is falling back, and he's just hanging out. And we got, oh man, these two, Melillo and Goke, those are the two that are making moves on each other. It's losing them time as it presently stands, and it's making me nervous as a commentator just to see, are they going to be able to keep it separated all the way to the end of the race?
Gotta keep them separated.
There you go.
It's like I think this is the second time we've done that one, right?
Yeah. It's a good one.
We do love the also, right? So, eyes on Goke, eyes on Melillo. They've been trading the lead back and forth the last few laps or so. Brandon and Akabueze, or Haken and Akabueze, have been within striking distance. And oh, by the way, Brian Zabelski is a lap car, but is in the mix. And we also definitely missed this point, but Justin Melillo has indeed clinched the Triple Crown now. Clinched that a long while back. So occupied with the pit strategy we were that we totally missed that point. But Melillo will finish at absolute worst now, I believe, 9th, just with the amount of laps that everybody else is down a little bit further back.
Yeah, absolutely. And the chances for Melillo to get second place in the points championship is also getting a little bit further and further away. Even though he's still battling for the lead, Akabueze is also battling for the lead right now. And as long as Akabueze continues to manage what he's managing right now, that opportunity is getting a little less and less likely. As it stands right now, Akabueze needs to finish 8th or worse with Melillo winning for Melillo to be able to capture that. But we'll see if that ever even happens here, because that would require a wreck, I believe, for Akabueze.
You really think at this point Melillo's got his mind focused on second in points when he's racing for a win in the season finale of the ModernRacingPrince.com FTF1 Series? Because I certainly don't. I'll give you credit if you think he's points racing like that. But if I'm Melillo right now, I just want to win.
Oh, absolutely. Now, I don't think Melillo is points racing, but I certainly guarantee you he's got the broadcast going, and I'm giving him points updates through the broadcast. So Melillo knows what's on the line. I believe Akabueze also knows what's on the line here. So I think they're listening to know what's at stake presently, but I don't think that they're going to be racing too aggressively here. And I think Akabueze, as long as Akabueze is happy with where he's at and just wants to get his points finish here, he'll be happy, and he's not going to make a mistake.
Well, he's about to lock in a top 8 finish because Joseph Brewer's 9 laps down in 9th and 8 laps to go now. So, maybe we might have a green, white checker, so it might not be official yet, but very close to Akabueze locking down second. So if you're Melillo, I'd say you just go for the win. Why not?
Yeah, absolutely. 100% agree here. I definitely think that's Melillo, that's what you needed to do. You knew that from the very start. If you wanted to get second in points, it was probably going to have to start off with you winning the race. So Melillo, nothing's changed in Melillo's mind. Win the race, and you're putting yourself in a great position for just about everything you're trying to achieve at the end of the day. That you don't need to worry about positions. Whoa, that gets very dicey there. Akabueze joins, splits the middle with Melillo on the outside, Gok on the inside. Akabueze, and look at that, Hawken might come in and join. Hawken does. He's going to go ahead and carry a run, goes all the way to the outside, and boy, are we dancing like crazy with 7 laps to go now on the board, and it is almost a 4-wide battle for the lead.
And that all started with Melillo changing his line through the center of the corner as he decided to apex it a little bit higher to get underneath Gok down the front stretch, but he opened the middle up for Akabueze to shoot right through, and it forced Melillo to run high in 3 and 4, and he lost all the track positions. So now it's a cycle again. It's Hawken who gets caught up high this time. He'll ride the fence. Here comes Akabueze to the outside, and Melillo to the outside of him to go 3 wide again entering turn 1.
Oh my goodness gracious, as we see them once again racing really tight. Akabueze not giving any space to go. That results in, a very close battle as we see 4 wide down the backstretch for the lead with Hawken on the outside. And by goodness, I think Melillo might be able to get it. No, never mind. They continue to race 4 wide.
Melillo on the outside there. Hawken backed out of it, so he stays. Now, here comes Akabueze through the center. Leader that time by 0.8 of a second as there was contact between Gok and Akabueze in the middle of 1 and 2.
Akabueze and Gok are making contact with one another. Now, mind you, if there is an incident between the two of them and both of them are taken out, it'll be very curious to see where Akabueze finishes, because if he finishes 7th, he's okay. But if he finishes 8th, that leaves the door open for Melillo to finish 2nd in the points championship.
So now Akabueze in control of this. 3 laps to go here at California of the 250. All trying to stack up runs on Akabueze. Here comes Hawken. Here comes Gok all to the inside, trying to make the run on Akabueze. Here comes Gok to the outside of Hawken in 3 and 4.
And Gok is going to go ahead and take 2nd place as we see Hawken start to fall back. Akabueze with no run. Gok going to be able to carry it to the outside. He's going to be able to, but Melillo splits the middle and goes straight to the lead. And Melillo through the middle is able to make it happen.
What a beautiful move from Justin Melillo, but he's going to have to defend the run from Jonathan Gok coming high on the high line down the back straightaway. Beautiful work from Gok to take the lead right back away, and he'll work up and just nearly avoid contact.
Melillo trying to keep it underneath Gok off of corner exits. That's going to give the opportunity to Akabueze to split him once again. Akabueze backs out, not able to carry that run. That's going to leave him very tight 3 wide entering into the corner of turn number 1. Gok is going to fall back. Akabueze, Melillo.
3/4 of a lap to go. Jonathan Gok's going to have the opportunity for a run, as will Brandon Hawken. Here comes Gok to the high line. Akabueze stuck in the middle. Gok takes the lead on the outside of turn 3.
Malillo gets tight, pushes up into Akabueze, but he's not going to be able to do anything with it and move Jonathan Goke to the top of the leaderboard. Jonathan Goke is your winner.
Wow, I cannot believe that, I think, is what I just saw off of his list. But you can see how much this one means. And for as much as he has tried to fight for a win in this series, yep, that hand clap, I think, tells you everything you need to know. Did a really nice job of just keeping himself in the fight after he had the pit road penalty early on in this race and executed pit strategy at the end well enough to give himself a chance. There were a few roads that you could have taken to be part of that final four, but you didn't necessarily have to follow the same strategy. You could have short pitted like Akabueze and Hawken, who ended up finishing third and fourth, or you could have gone long and filled short like Goke and Malillo, and they all end up at the front, and then at some point it just comes down to racecraft and timing, and Goke did it better than everybody else.
Absolutely, and we got Goke doing burnouts and Hawken doing burnouts. Those, you got the winner of the race, and finally at the end of the season, Hawken can officially say he is the champion, even though we knew that with last one there. That was a fantastic race. Congratulations to Jonathan Goke. I was wondering where he was at for most of the race, but he came in and joined and participated in the race win battle at the right exact moment and was able to capture the win.
Jonathan Goke, what a huge win for him. And one that he's been working towards all season long, just has not had the luck at all, and it finally comes together tonight.
And we have an opportunity to sit down and chat with our winner. Jonathan Goke manages to secure the win, and Jonathan, it wasn't looking good there for a while. You were battling just being off pace and not on the lead lap and what have you, but a couple of cautions at the end of the race brought you right back into the end of the picture. And tell us what happened there at the end.
Yeah, first thing I'm going to do right now is apologize to Jake. I don't know what happened on that restart. I saw him going. I went with him. I think I was looking ahead. He stabbed the brakes ahead him. I ruined his race. So, Jake, I apologize. You know, that's not how I like to race. But this race, yeah, that caused me to pit. I think I spent 300 miles a lap down, just picking off good laps. Finally got back in the pack. Saved as much gas as I could so I could have the shortest stop. And I was able to come out first. And then just, what a battle. That was amazing. What a battle.
Did you know exiting off of turn number 2 that you felt confident that you might have just secured the race win there, or where did you figure it out?
Not at all. I coming off when I dipped back down off of 1 and 2 and I had such a run, I knew there was going to be at least one lane for me, either up the middle or way across. I knew if I could clear enough speed to clear into 3. And I was just hoping to finish at least third. I did say earlier I wanted to get at least one win, and I did it. I think I finished 4th in points. I got a win. Awesome race with awesome people.
Yeah, that was a fantastic race there. Secured a win right at the end of the season. You were able to get one out of the way. I know how much you've enjoyed racing in this series. Just what does it mean to you to get a win at the end of the racing series and hopefully project yourself very far forward in the points?
I'm just honored to race with such amazing people like Hamilton and Brandon and Justin they're not only amazing racers, but they're so clean. And to win against them is just amazing. And as she just got home, hey, I won. Wave. There's my firefighter wife. She just got home from fighting a fire. But yeah, just racing against these guys and getting to win with them and racing clean, it means the world to me. And I can't thank everybody enough for letting me be a part of it.
Well, awesome. Congratulations on securing that win. We'll go ahead and let you celebrate. And sure, you looking forward to NFL season here soon, shortly.
Let's go, baby. I'm going to 2 games this year.
There you go. That's Jonathan Goke, your winner. And I believe James has caught up with our second place finisher, Justin Malillo.
Justin, it was close. Looking back on this, do you wish you had timed the move coming through the middle of 1 and 2 in that run differently, or with the way the draft was working, did you feel like you had another option besides just taking what it was giving you at that point?
I'll tell you what, James. I was really lucky to even be in that lead draft there at the end to even begin with. The call there was not my smartest call. I did not take tires on that final pit stop, but it allowed me to be in the pack. I was struggling for grip that entire last run there, and I tell you what, the last place I wanted to be was on the bottom, and I found myself on the bottom on that last lap. And then I'm just thinking, like, I don't want to slide up and ruin it for everybody because we've been having the most amazing battle like that entire time. I just got a picture of us going 4 wide with, I want to say, 5 laps to go. It was just incredible racing, and triple crown champion, baby. We got that triple crown. Really excited for that. I mean, in the 3 big oval races, second, first, and second. I can't ask for anything more than that. Absolutely incredible job by Jonathan Goke there at the end. He went out and he earned that one because I think I heard him say it there. I mean, he was talking about the best. I'm not the best, but Brandon Hawkin and Hamilton Akabueze those two are absolutely incredible in this car, and it showed all season, right? Like, so he went out, earned that one. I feel like I earned a second place finish amongst those two as well. So we will take that and run with it, James Pike.
You've talked a little bit about it, but just to underscore it, to be the Triple Crown champion, what does that mean to you?
It means a lot because I haven't really, on a competitive scale, because I race everything FTF, right? Like, so, like, I'm gonna eventually, fall face first into something every now and then, right? So, Cup, I'm still waiting to fall. Every squirrel finds a nut every once in a while. But I worked really hard to really understand this car and get the oval side down with my teammate Ryan Araki. We worked tirelessly with this car at uh, every different type of oval. And it showed, right? Like, I got these 2 second place finishes at Michigan and here tonight at Auto Club, and I won the Indy race, the Speedway, the rectangle race. Sorry, said the word I can't say. And then RNC won at Phoenix, right? So I think the only oval that we didn't get was Pocono in all of that, right? Or I think maybe we didn't get Chicago. We should have got Chicagoland, I'll tell you that. So it was great working with RNC. I let him down tonight by speeding at that one point, and I got really lucky that we got the caution that we did, and then we were right back in the game. And then just absolutely unfortunate that he got run over there. I know Ryan didn't mean to do what he did. Ryan Pendicio didn't mean to do what he did there to Ryan Araki, and it just sucks because we really did have a shot, I think, at winning the constructors tonight, and it never got to play out, which just unfortunate. So, but I'll take second place. I think we ended up second place in the constructors. Well, congratulations to the Academy Days Clowns on winning that. And again, congratulations to Brandon Hawken on winning the championship. It's been an incredible season. I love this car. I love this series. I love this everything. I love FTF.GG. I love you guys. It's just a love fest right now.
A solid way to end the week for Justin Melillo, your Triple Crown champion of the 2023 ModernRacingPrince.com FTF1 Series. We'll shift our attention from Melillo to the driver who finished third in tonight's race and second in the final point standings this season, Hamilton Akabueze. And Hamilton, just what was it like there, sort of managing strategies and then the battles between you and Jonathan and Justin and Brandon the last 25 laps or so, just from behind the wheel? What was that to have to manage and have to fight through?
Yeah, I mean, that whole last run was super duper fun. We were like, me and Hawk, and we're just talking the whole time, like, what do we do here to win the race? Because we weren't sure how the runs would time out, if you'd be able to clear them on the last lap, which Goke did eventually. It's just hard to know where to be. And we tried to pit early to maybe get a gap to the field before, like on the last pit stop, but the low fuel ended up outweighing it a lot, which I just didn't account for. So yeah, we went with a little bit of the wrong strategy there, and maybe we could have. We've had really good pit stops, the whole like pit entries, so maybe we could have got a gap if we stayed out longer, but it was super fun battling the whole time. Was this car's fun whole season coming in. I had no idea if this car would be any good or not. It's crazy to drive, super on edge, and just I mean the draft creates for ridiculous racing. It's pretty fun. But yeah, I mean I enjoyed the season. Congrats to Hawken in the championship. Congrats to Goat. And yeah, I'm hoping maybe this will come back eventually if we ever get the IR18 back, because that's my best car on the service. So yeah, have fun.
What's it mean to you to be runner-up at the championship with a car that suits your driving style and certainly your open wheel prowess, but like you said, maybe not necessarily one that you had a lot of familiarity with coming into this season?
Yeah, I mean it you have to forget a lot about how tires even work when you drive this car, because the tires are like you can just turn as much as you want and it'll just grip forever. And I mean, there's like the tires wear backwards, you get faster as the run goes on. So some to get used to for sure. But I mean, I run IndyCar. I run like 3 IndyCar leagues a week when I can. So that's my main thing. But it certainly suited me for sure. And yeah, it's just crazy to drive, fun.
Hamilton Akabueze, third place in tonight's race, runner up in the 2023 ModernRacingPrince.com FTF1 Series. And that means we have one more driver to talk to. He was fourth in tonight's race, but he is your 2023 ModernRacingPrince.com FTF1 Series champion. And he is Brandon Hawken, who is with Josh Mendoza.
Brandon, we talked to you last week. You secured your team or your drivers championship, but now you have a constructors championship to celebrate. What does that mean for you and Pandicio, your fellow driver?
Yeah, I think, man, it just, oh man, I hate how it happened, but man, we worked really hard all season. Yeah, Ryan had a lot of tough luck there at the beginning, and towards the middle to the end, you started putting some really good finishes together, and man, it was got to be a fight there between us and the clubhouse. Man, yeah, that was such a fun battle with them through the entire race, and. Yeah, at one point we both had one car up at the front, one car a lap down because of pit issues or something, and man, it was we were just doing all we could. We're playing different strategies, leapfrog drafting, doing all that stuff, just trying to get an advantage, and yeah, it's just one little error there that kind of ended it on a sour note, but. Yeah, I just feel really sorry for Justin and Ryan. They did a really great job all season, and they definitely they were like probably the two most in sync teammates throughout the entire season. And yeah, I just got a little bit bummed about that, but you know, we got the drivers' championship there locked up last week, and so I'm really happy about that. And man, at least we had a really great race to the finish there. Man, Hamilton and I were working together as well, and there was. Yeah, just the end there was like I tested the waters a few times, just trying to see what I could do on the last lap, because you did not want to be first or second. And so I tried a couple things, and then I think I went a little bit too early for the way everybody was lined up going into turn 3. I got the draft, had a huge run, and instead of going to the outside, I probably should have just backed back up again and then gotten the draft again coming to the line, and maybe it could have ended up maybe actually I don't even know if I could have won, because it was kind of gridlock there on the bottom. So man, yeah, Jonathan just did a really great job there working the lanes, and just man, came really close there, but you know, great win to Jonathan. That was some great stuff, and man, I don't know what we'll be doing next year as far as FTF1 goes, but I've had a blast this entire season. Thanks so much to Modern Racing Prince, everybody at FTF, and man, yeah, just an amazing championship fight all season there with Hamilton until he unfortunately had to miss a couple races, and then for the constructors championship, it was so close with us and Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. So, man, great job from everybody. And man, yeah, well, hopefully we can come back, do some more of this stuff because man, this car's a lot of fun.
Well, congratulations! You round out the season with a little bit of additional hardware and the team and drivers the constructors and the drivers championship. Not able to get the Triple Crown championship, but at least that was going to Justin as well. So
Oh, well, congrats to
congratulations.
Justin for that. Yeah, yeah, good stuff. I'm glad he got it with all the stuff that happened there. But yeah, Hamilton there. I wasn't sure his situation. I think he had something bad had to happen to Justin there for him to get it. And yeah, Justin did a really great job, especially on these long races. So man, yeah, congrats to Justin. I'm glad he got that.
Well, there you go. And it's been requested that I have to finish a tradition for you. Do you have a favorite sandwich?
Oh, favorite sandwich? I like assorted. There's a place called Mr. Sub up in Canada. I'm not sure if they have any in the U.S., but yeah, they have this really nice mayonnaise, and it's not real mayonnaise. It's more like I don't know. It's almost like ranch dressing, but yeah, I love pouring that on there, and yeah, good sprinkle of pepper, not bad, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
There you go. Well, congratulations to Brandon Hawken for securing the Drivers' Championship and Academy de Clown for securing the Constructors' Championship. And hopefully we'll see you guys back again real soon.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
All right, James. There you go. FTF1 Series. The season's all wrapped up with a nice bow on top. A fantastic finish to end the season for the ModernRacingPrince.com FTF1 Series and the Triple Crown. We'll go ahead and take a quick look at the results just to get an idea of what all happened there with Goke beating out Malillo by just barely 6/100ths of a second. Hamilton Akabueze, Brandon Hawken, Jamie Ritchie, Price, Matthew Brewer, Seth Eggert not able to secure that last lap that he needed to get back to be a part of the picture again. Ben Goyette still got stuck 2 laps down. Joseph Brewer, in his not so good, very terrible night, was able to get 9th, which I would say he's probably happy. And then Brian Sabelski rounds out the top 10.
Zabelski was the last car running at the end of the race. Everyone else here on this list fell out of it early. The Ryans, Naraki and Pandicio, got caught up together on the front stretch, about 68-ish laps and 69 laps out from the finish. They finished 11th and 12th, respectively. Cody Ware finishes 13th. Michael Deitch and Bryce Saucier finished in 14th and 15th after getting caught up together. Jake Poulin did not have a great night, finished 16th. BB Ruiz was 17th. Tori Pushman 18th. And then Corey Vervinkt and Bill Colley got caught up in that opening wreck some maybe 30 laps into the race. They finish 19th and 20th.
Well, that's gonna round it out here at California Speedway. Any final thoughts, James, before we head out?
I think that the thing I love the most about the ModernRacingPrince.com FTF1 series is that it gives a really, really good platform to a car that I think has been, quite honestly, criminally underused across the sim. This is a fabulous open wheel machine, and it is a little bit different from everything else. Remember that it was built as part of a partnership between Dallara and iRacing, and it's not a car that's actually featured in real life, but if Dallara needed to build the IR01 in real life, they could. That was sort of the point. So it is a beast. It is a challenge. There's not a lot of electronic assistance or any of the fancy bells and whistles, but it can challenge you. And it can push you. And I think we saw that at the end of the race tonight. You saw drivers that have a lot of ability with open wheel cars really being pushed to their limits. And it reminded us of just how great this car is on ovals. And it makes me very, very excited for the upcoming World Championship that iRacing is going to run. The revival of the championship that was run in 2021. It's back this year in 2023, and it's going to give a platform to this car once again. And we're going to see it compete
on some of the greatest road courses and hopefully some of the greatest ovals in the world. And we're going to see some really good racing because that's what this car does. It forces you to rise to the occasion and perform. It's not easy to control, but if you can figure out how to run it and you put your racecraft together, it puts on some of the best shows you're going to see in iRacing. So I'm really looking forward to the World Championship and hopeful that we get a series, another series rather, of the ModernRacingPrince.com FTF1 series in the future. This is a fun combo, and especially on the ovals, it's a special one to watch. I'm glad I got the chance to hop in tonight and be a part of the season finale, and hope that I get to do a few more of these in the future.
There you go. Absolutely. Well, we're going to say congratulations to Jonathan Goke, first of all, for winning the FTF.GG 500. We're going to say congratulations to Brandon Hawken for winning the Driver Championship, to Justin Malillo for winning the Triple Crown Championship presented by MAT Liveries. And we're going to say congratulations to Academy des Clowns for winning the Constructors Championship here tonight. And for myself, Josh Mendoza, James Pike, Zach Johnson, that's going to wrap up the ModernRacingPrince.com FTF1 season. We hope to see you real soon. Have a safe night. See y'all later.